Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest, or I should say the first part of the last installment of Quest for the Bestest. We've watched all the Best Picture winners and some more, and now it is finally time for us Backlog Boys to give you our final thoughts, interpretations, and findings on all 90 plus, really, because we've done even more. There's 95 Best Picture winners, and we did a couple more, not quite 100, but then we also did all the nominees for the last couple years. We've watched a lot of movies, and we spent a lot of time talking and thinking about them. And today, we are here to present you with the Backlot Banter official Quest Oscars nominations. Today, we have prepared for you. Each of us has a nominee for a bajillion categories, like the Oscars. It's the Oscars for the Best Picture winners.
Exactly.
It's an ingenious idea that we came up with. It's all ours, all our own.
True.
And today, we're going to go through one by one and let you know. And we've got some surprise categories in there for you, because we know that,
of course,
the Oscars are about celebrating, but we are not all about celebrating. We're also about denigrating those who deserve it. And oh boy, there are some movies on this list that deserve to be denigrated.
We're denigrating some movies. We're denigrating ourselves, but
little
we're
bit.
also celebrating ourselves a little bit in
Yeah.
some of these surprise categories.
Yeah. So, anything else before we just jump in and hit our first category?
I
I'm
can't wait for this
excited.
to be a yearly thing. Review all the Best Picture winners every year and
Yes.
do another one of these yearly.
Yes.
Man, yeah. I just wanna-
The 31st annual Questers. We did it again.
Yay. No, I'm very excited. I really love this idea. And let us know in the comments if you think that we had any glaring oversights in our nominees. We're doing 4 nominees in each category, of course, one from every one of us. So good stuff.
Oh, and we should probably describe what happens next after this, because
of course,
we will be taking these nominees, and then us 4 Backlot Boys will be voting on them using a highly specialized ranked choice system that determines a tie.
That we came up with.
Yes. Ranked, we invented ranked choice specifically for the purpose of this episode. We will then be determining one single best winner for each category, as well as
the Questker winner.
The Questker winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got a bunch of trophies made.
Yeah.
We all put Timo.
They're all of that picture of me with my little book. You know what
exactly.
it is.
We'll be shipping them out to potential winners, like Billy Wilder might get one. Clark Gable might get one.
He's really been waiting for that one.
I think so. I think these gentlemen, they've been waiting on these, and I think it's time we provide them.
We also haven't, I don't think, done like sample tabulation, so we don't know if there can even be ties. So the whole thing might get screwed up. So that's part of the mystery. We might end up tying some things and there just being a whole disaster.
Yeah.
And maybe we should have. I've been zoning out. Maybe we did describe it already, but basically the pool is we have various all the Oscar categories that apply, and then some bonus categories, and the pool is all the Best Picture winners. Okay.
Yep.
Every Best Picture winner is eligible in each one of these categories.
Every category.
What's the best production design in a Best Picture winner? What's the best costume design in a Best Picture winner? Who's the best actor in a Best Picture winner?
Yeah.
All this and more.
There is also, for the sake of evenness and arbitration and conversation, always 4 nominees. Even if we overlap in some places, we all have backups. At least I hope we all do.
If you don't have a backup, you're duly required to make one up on the spot.
I might have to.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't have a backup, you have to say crash every time.
Oh, that's fun. That's
I will
good.
say-
That's good, actually.
There are 2 categories that I have not written anything down for yet.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
we
that's fun.
started the
Some
recording.
crash nominations coming here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we got some crash knobs. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started.
Let's hope this is not one of the ones Abram hasn't written down. We are going to begin following loosely what the Oscars would do as their broadcast order. We're going to start with supporting actor for our very first category.
Yeah.
All right.
Who would like to launch
You
their
gotta throw it to someone. Come on, host.
Tanner, who do you nominate in the category of supporting actor?
Ooh, I was kind of hoping that I would get to go last.
Too bad. How the cookie crumbled.
Yeah.
I'm going
Oh,
to
come on.
Do it.
I'm going to nominate because you guys are saying do it, I'm going with my backup because I had two that I really love, and I'm gonna just hope and pray that one of you guys picks the other one. But I'm going to go with Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, good
Especially
pick.
interesting because he won lead actor.
Yes, that's my thing. I think Anthony Hopkins in that film is far more of a supporting performance. He only has 16 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
So I'm
We're
saying
righting
that
a wrong here.
Exactly. I think so. So I'm locking in Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. One of my
So-
favorite performances.
I'm gonna go next because that was also my choice, and
Oh,
at risk of somebody stealing my backup, I'm just gonna go and use that right now. But I agree with you, Tanner. One
Yeah.
of the main criteria I was considering when making my choices was what sticks with me the most. Because
Right.
frankly, as I was sort of sitting down this morning over a cup of Joe, I don't drink coffee, but imagine it for the sake of the image.
Joe J. George
Joe J.
Juice.
Sipping my George juice, and I'm thinking to myself, man, there's a lot of Best Picture winners that I simply remember nothing about.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And Silence of the Lambs is obviously not one of those. And to me, the nominees here that I'm raising are the ones that, with the least amount of research, immediately spring to mind. And I think that
Absolutely.
Anthony Hopkins just gives such a defining performance. And I think that there's little doubt that its sort of proliferation into wider pop culture is testament to that.
Yeah.
I'm going a little bit harder on this because I have a little bit less to say about my backup, but my backup is still an excellent performance, and this is Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Okay. Another fantastic villain performance.
Yes. Similar.
His
I-
defining performance, unlike his performance in
The Little Mermaid.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I figured we were going there. I figured the joke had to be made.
Uh-huh.
But I think they're similar in certain ways, not only because they play this sort of the same trope in the narrative, but because I think that there's just an eeriness about them. And I find
Yeah.
eeriness to be a very hard quality for an actor to capture. So I'm locking in Javier Bardem as my sort of shout-out backup because it's also
Another
an
great
excellent
pick.
performance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tucker, you or I? I'm prepared. I have mine.
Then go.
Okay.
I'm fully prepared, by the way. I'm not. No, there's no this shenanigans hullabaloo coming from me. I'm not gonna hem and haw. when it's my
Okay.
turn.
Okay.
I'm not gonna hem and haw either. My nomination
fingers.
for supporting actor is Marlon Brando in Godfather Part 1 because I think he's the supporter.
sure.
He's the supporter in that film.
Okay. All right.
And
I agree.
I think that
I agree as well.
it is an amazing performance. And Godfather is a film that we watched a long time ago, but I still remember it. I still
Yes.
think about it.
That was episode 2.
Yes, in fact, nearly 100 episodes ago.
Most of us didn't have facial hair when we recorded that.
And look
That's
at us
true.
now.
I was rewatching some Quest episodes for this, and
Oh,
I must say,
I rewatched a
was
bunch.
disgusted by my own appearance. I was like, God, do
you remember-
look like that?
Do you remember when I only had a goatee and it stretched approximately 6 inches down off my face?
Oh boy.
Oh, we're
Tucker,
doing a little reminiscing here.
I hope that you are picking because I probably should have gone with my primary if Anthony Hopkins was Abrams, but I hope you're coming through here.
I know who you want me to pick, but I'm not going to do it.
No.
I'm going Kehe Kwan for Everything Everywhere All
Okay.
at Once. We're
Okay.
picking 3 of possibly the most iconic film performances of all time in the 3 that you guys said. But for me, Kehe Kwan last year is probably the happiest I've ever been with one single win. I mean, everyone was behind that, and in terms of having a little bit of modern representation, I think he's up there. And as an actor that we will now keep in our minds forever, coming back from being loved as a child actor and then revitalizing himself as one of the prominent actors currently, I mean, he killed it in that role, and none of us would disagree with that. And I easily think he's should be in that conversation. I'm so happy I can be the one to prop him up, you know?
Troy Kotzer, I'm so sorry. I should not have doubted
Oh.
Abrams.
Was that the one you were going to say? I thought you were going to
Yes.
say Edward Norton in Birdman, who was my back.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because
interesting.
Jesus Christ, that's a pick.
Yeah, that's good
Wow,
too.
that would have been a
Wow.
great pick.
Anyone have
Okay.
any other shout-outs? Because I've got a couple.
No, I only had my two right there.
I went 4 for every single one, just in case. You know, just
Okay,
in case
that's
you
fun.
all
That's
picked.
good.
Wow.
In the off scenario.
My other
Lay 'em
2
on me.
being Lionel Barrymore in You Can't Take It With You, and
yeah,
Fred
yeah.
McMurray in The Apartment.
Okay, yeah, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
What category
Moving on.
next, Timo?
moving on, we're gonna do a separate but double feature of sound editing, followed by sound mixing. Let's start with sound editing.
Well, hang on, Timo. For the audience, because you specifically requested that we throw it back to the classic
different.
Oscars. Quickly, I might add, summarize the difference between sound editing and sound mixing.
Quickly. Parentheses quickly.
Yeah.
Sound editing is the choice of sounds and when you hear them. What sounds win. Sound mixing is what sounds and how loud they are.
What sounds
Okay.
when, what sounds loud?
Yes.
What sounds parentheses
think
when?
about-
What sounds parentheses loud?
Yes.
In video editing, the opacity of the video frame is largely unimportant because it is normally entirely opaque. But in audio, you change the volume as I'm going. And so the editing is very similar to picture
Sound
editing.
opacity.
Its volume is sound opacity.
Yeah, that's a
And
great
the mixing
fucking
is
point.
the choice of how it all fits together.
Okay.
Sure.
That was a
Timo,
great
who's going first?
explanation. Thank you.
Yeah.
I should probably go first.
Yeah, of course. you
Of
should.
course.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow up Tucker's pick of Kei Kwan because for editing, I'm actually going to choose Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Nice.
I think that by and large, modern films do a lot better in sound than old ones do. You'll see my exception for the second category, but this Everything Everywhere presents not only like a modern, fresh look on filmmaking, but I feel that its use of creative sound design brings the medium forward as well. And it is joy to listen to. There's like the fights and the googly eyes, you can hear them. There are so many moments in that film where I was just being blown away by the sound effects and what I was hearing. So Everything Everywhere has to be my pick.
Very nice. I'll go
Go
next.
next.
Okay.
Tanner will go
Abram-
next.
Okay, I'll go next.
Tanner, you're next.
We talked about memorability. Abram mentioned that, and for me, in both of these sound categories, I have to go with sound moments that stick out to me. And if we're going sound editing, and that is what sounds parentheses when, I have to go with maybe the most well-placed and most memorable moments of sound in a Best Picture winner, and that is The Artist.
Ah,
Yes.
I was thinking that.
Okay. I was thinking that too, but I had to ixnay it on principle because that movie largely has not a lot of sound.
But if we're talking about when, that is maybe the most well-placed moment of sound in the oeuvre here. So I'm going The Artist.
Okay.
That was definitely one of my picks, but I'm going for another one similar to Tanner because, frankly, and Amy and I were having a conversation about this in our own text of what are we even gonna pick? Like we're kind of just bullshitting this team. I'm sorry, none of us really know what we're doing here. We're pulling out our ass, but
Hey, don't
Tanner,
move me in. I know. I got it.
Tanner mentioned something that sticks out to me, which is what a moment of sound editing, not having sound sticks out to me. And another moment, Tanner, and frankly, I thought this was what you were going to go for, is Coda. When they cut out the sound when she's performing on the stage, that is one of the moments of that film, and one of the moments that film felt so powerful and ended up kicking its way up to Best Picture. So that is definitely my pick with Coda.
Sure.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's a great pick. I was thinking of that one also. Abram, your choice?
I guess I'm on a little bit of a roll here since I was forced to my backup before, but I'm going once again with No Country for Old Men. I think that No Country for Old Men does an exceptional job of using sound to heighten the tension of a moment. I think of when Llewellyn Moss is in the motel and you hear every single sound as Anton Chigurh is coming down the hallway and popping that lock with the air compressor. I think it's a brilliant example of sound design standing in for dialogue and working harmoniously with shot composition to make a really tense experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Great picks, all of you.
All right. Let's mix it up.
Let's mix it up. I'll go first. Tanner, nice one. Nice one. I want to start because I don't think you guys are going to take this one from me, but you might.
Okay.
For sound mixing, I nominate All Quiet on the Western Front from 1930 because that movie both has excellent sound, but I think it's mixed particularly well in that the old tape-saturated feel of it makes those artillery shells and the explosions and during the battle scenes so outsized and so loud compared to everything else in that movie. It was when we watched it, I was shaken by those blasts and just the way that they sounded. And this film is a early example of audio in movies, and I think it does a particularly creative job as well as bringing this new medium into popular acceptance. So All Quiet on the Western Front is my nomination in mixing.
Great
Sure.
pick.
I will go next.
Okay.
I am going to go with Platoon.
Mm.
It's another war pick.
Yeah.
I think that the gunfire in Platoon is really, you can hear it, and I think that there's dialogue and you can hear that too. And frankly, this is one of the
think
two
that's
categories that I didn't write anything down for. But if I had to imagine, Platoon is a good answer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go for something not war adjacent, but instead more a war of creativity, because I'm picking Amadeus, a film that I think uses sound in very unique ways, playing in and out some musical score moments, but mixing that in with what other sound is happening in sequences and kind of meshing things together in very unique ways. So, Amadeus, one of the few movies I've ever noticed sound mixing in.
Nice.
you
My
go.
Very
sound
nice.
editing backup.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one for sound editing because of the
Oh, so
wind.
would that be more sound editing?
You
or-
picked it for mixing, so it's mixing.
Okay,
Absolutely.
sure. Sure, let's go with that.
I'm going with something of equal bombast to a war film, because for me, when I was picking my sound mixing nominee, I was thinking, what's something that, you know, it's the mix of it. You have those huge sounds, but you can still bring out the dialogue. You can bring out the music. It's all very well done, and especially when it's drawn over a long sequence like we have in the film Titanic. That is my when you
Sure.
have the ship creaking and snapping in half, and then you have Rose and Jack yelling at each other. All that dialogue is coming across very nice, and you have that score that's still swelling underneath of it. Fantastic mix for my money.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll shout out my other ones, since you know, we might as well lengthen this one out and shout out the other ones. Chicago and The Hurt Locker were both in contention for either one for me.
in doing a little research, I found that the Academy rarely nominates or rarely gives both Best Picture and Best Sound. So Hurt Locker is one of the few examples that won Best Sound and Best Picture.
Yeah, nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Another category.
let's get another category.
Okay, Abram.
We are going to stick in the audiovisual sense, but flip the coin, talk about cinematography next. Who wants to nominate? This is a big award, actually. Best cinematography of Best
Yeah.
Pictures. What do you, I don't even know. Who wants to start? Tucker? Or Abram, you want to start. I was going to volunteer Tucker, but Abram, you
Timo,
start.
by the way, Timo, I think you should finish and then hand it off to someone.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Do your hosting duties, buddy.
I'll get one more in under the pre-hosting wire and jump off what Tanner said, because I'm also giving this to Titanic. I think that the
nice.
cinematography in Titanic is exceptional, not only in the incredibly large-scale shots of the actual ship collapsing, but one of my favorite shots in all of film is just when the camera pushes into the ballroom and we're moving around and we're seeing characters and locations. I think there's something quite elegant about the cinematography that's able to capture these small moments and also have some really just iconically framed shots, like the hand on the fogged up window. I think that it strikes this balance between iconography and sort of just technical prowess and ingenuity and how the camera moves. I think it's sort of the whole package on the cinematography front.
Very nice.
And because I was voluntold, I might as well go next. I'm going for the film in which the camera played its biggest role for me, which is going to be Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This is a
Yes.
film where you feel the camera existing because of its lack of editing or perceived lack of editing, and what it does with cinematography and impossible camera movements is something that is not really matched in other things. Something like you can compare it to the one-shot nature of something like Rope or 1917, but these are movies that are very grounded in their own realities, and they hide their shots only by passing behind a wall or something, but Birdman passes time when it passes its shots, and it does impossible things, and characters teleport within one perceived shot, and that kind of combining of cinematography, camera work, and editing shines really brightly in that film, and there's nothing really else like it.
Nice. Nice.
Nice pick. Tanner?
Okay, Timo, I'm gonna leave my primary pick up to you, because I think it's a softball for you.
He'll do it. It's fine.
He'll do it.
It was my other one.
In that sense, I'm going to go with, because I've been picking some modern films, so that means I'm gonna throw it back a number of decades.
Toss it
And
back.
I'm gonna do Rebecca. I'm gonna do Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca.
Okay.
I think that the use of shadows in this film really sticks with me. Use of silhouettes. That you have obviously the foggy beaches that this film utilizes as well. And I just keep thinking back to like that push in on the burning house at the very end. I think to when we are looking at Rebecca's bed and we have I forget the character's name, but the housekeeper or whatever, the main antagonist of the film is sort of silhouetted in this like veil that surrounds the bed. I think it's a beautiful looking film, beautiful looking black and white cinematography, and I needed to shout out some of that on these nominee lists.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope I'm going to make you happy because I, for cinematography, am going to nominate, once again, Godfather Part 1.
Oh, no. Oh my goodness.
Because
What?
I think that movie is incredibly shot. The way that the lighting is so muted, and don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
okay.
Trust me. I was holding
Definitely
myself back. I'll say.
Okay.
Uninitiated viewers are confused as hell right now.
Uh-huh.
No, The Godfather Part 1 has this wonderfully dark and backlit atmosphere to it that really, I think, exudes the kind of like underbelly of the crime world, of the mob world. And some of the shots towards the end of the movie I think the actual cinematography does a lot of lifting in that like crazy, it's not an Ave Maria, but when there's the sequence of all the killings happening towards the end of the film.
Baptism murders.
Yes. The viscerality of seeing this extreme violence play out really sticks with me. And like when Sonny gets killed towards the end of the movie, like that shot, and it's just unbelievable. I really like the cinematography in Godfather Part 1. I'm giving Part 1 all the love. I'm not.
We'll
giving...
tune in the audience here a second. No Larry, no Lawrence of Arabia from Timo.
Not yet, at least.
It's surprising. It's surprising to me.
Not yet, at least.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other shout-outs, guys?
I had No Country for Old Men and 12 Years a Slave on my list as well.
My other ones were The Artist, Parasite, and The Shape of Water.
Also good ones.
My brain can only comprehend the main and the backup that I brought today. So
Sure,
no.
fair point.
Okay, well, let's move on. We're going to go to a special category, one that we invented particularly for this here ceremony, and you're going to love it. This is most problematic. So the Best Picture winner that has not aged the best and makes us the most unhappy. Not the most unhappy, but the most ick-filled, most problematic. You know what we mean. I think, Tanner, you should start with this one.
Okay, I'm just gonna go off the bat. I'm not gonna try and anticipate anyone's pick here. I'm gonna go Gigi. If we're talking about off the bat, I mean, just opening with a song that's about how much you love little girls. Hey, listen, man. Crazy decision, and I wouldn't do it if it were my movie. But also, there are obviously very antiquated ideas about marital relationships, male and female relationships throughout the film. That is, of course, contained to the time period, but also isn't challenged in any particular way. And again, I must go back to the old man opening up the film, singing about how much little girls are great.
Little girls. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going Gigi.
Okay. Tucker, you're next.
You guys remember how the classic film Around the World in 80 Days just spent like most of its runtime doing crazy racial stereotypes of like every culture on the planet? That was bizarre. What the hell happened there? That was certainly, I think, the most pervasive I felt of this has aged poorly. People thought differently back then. What the hell is this? There are moments in other films, some of which I have on my other backups. But Around the World in 80 Days, they just kept doing it. And it just didn't stop. Yeah. And it was like, oh God, oh really? Oh, you thought this was okay? Oh God.
Oh, you thought you were satisfied with a racist caricature of India? Okay, now let's go to Japan and have an entirely new set of racist stereotypes to play with.
Spain, I think they also do.
Spain was at first, They also did Native Americans.
Yes,
we got the Spanish guy who's his sidekick. It was a whole fucking kit and caboodle there.
Yeah.
Now you guys are throwing it back to old
Who's
eras.
gonna pick mine right now?
And
know it.
Timo, I'm gonna take it because it's the most obvious
It's
choice.
so obvious.
And it's Green Book.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So the thing about maybe the least pleasant episodes of Quest for the Bestest to listen to, the
Sure,
Green Book
yeah.
review, which was mostly us just talking about racism in America.
Uh-huh.
I am maybe not. I don't maybe have as disparaging a reading of what the film is trying to do as some other people do, but I think that the fact that the Academy even picked Green Book in the year of our Lord 2018 to win Best Picture was a pretty big indictment on maybe just issues with that awards body on a whole. And I think it remains crazy to me that they said, hey, you know what was the best film of that year?
Green
Green
Book.
Book.
Green Book. Well,
Agree,
I'm
yeah.
lucky.
That movie was out of date the day it won.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My God. Well, I am going to stay in the modern era because my most problematic pick is going to have to be Crash.
Yeah, okay.
Someone had to do it. Someone had to do
It's
it.
got to be on there.
Oh, that movie is similarly filled with racial stereotypes, but in that it comes out in 2002 and it flip-flops so diametrically between actually trying to have a point, but then always devolving back into the racial stereotypes as to why this reasonably well-argued, observation about American racism or, Los Angeles racism just gets crushed with the hammer of a stereotype that then reinforces the racism while also and it's
You remember
2002.
Ludacris is like,
but
people
Ludacris.
thought that I was gonna rob them, and then they're like, let's go break into a car. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
This is like
yeah.
the opening 3 minutes of your movie.
Yep.
Okay, but Ludacris
I
is
do remember.
based entirely throughout that movie. I have no hate for Luda in Crash, even though I hate the entire rest of that film.
Yeah.
Holy
Anyone
shit.
have any other problematic, poorly aged shout-outs? I have Cimarron.
Cimarron's good.
Cimarron's a good pull.
Yeah.
Gone with the
I-
Wind,
I
I,
would-
think,
I
is
would
pretty
go with-
problematic too.
Oh, for sure. I also have Out of Africa on
Oh,
my
yeah.
list.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
God damn it! What happened there? Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
I mean, we went probably deeper into this than you guys wanted to on the review, but I also will just shout out $1 Million Baby because I really hate sort of Clint Eastwood's voice.
Sure.
throughout that
Oh
film.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
I
okay.
remember that. A recent one.
His directorial voice, not his actual
No,
vocal.
I I go to sleep listening to Clint Eastwood.
Oh, sure. I see. Okay, good.
Not true.
Good.
I
Oh.
don't like Clint Eastwood very much.
Okay.
Okay, going on from unpleasant categories to much more pleasant ones. VFX. Who do you, Abram, nominate in the category of
Phew.
visual effects?
I can just take it. Obviously, Lord of the Rings.
There you go.
I don't
nice,
really think
nice.
there's a whole hell of a lot to say beyond that because it's self-evident.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, now this is an interesting category though, because I was going through and I'm like, oh God, which one's really?
Yeah.
Which one's do I pick?
Oh, I've just had a sudden change of heart. We'll see.
Okay,
We'll
then
see.
why don't you go?
I don't know. I don't want to go.
Okay.
Oh.
Gotta think on it. Let him think on it. Let him cook.
I have
Grace
three.
Randolph
I
would
have
say.
three options for this category.
Pass it
now.
off. Pass
Yeah.
it off, Timo. Who's it gonna
Tucker,
be?
you seem to be on arriving at a point.
Yeah. Well, my point is a film that is not overtly filled with visual effects, but is in reality filled with visual effects. A movie simply known as Forrest Gump. There's a lot of subtle
yes.
visual effects in removing the legs of a human being and having a feather that looks really goddamn real, and lots of there's some war sequences, and Forrest Gump is appearing in old television stuff. These are very subtle VFX. They're not like big bombastic CGI creatures like some other horse shit that has been previously nominated.
I am, of course,
but-
reminded of the presidents being recreated,
Mhm.
namely John F. Kennedy being recreated.
That was so good.
little rough, I'll say, but it was the '90s. What can you do? I suppose that leaves it to me, and I'm gonna go The Shape of Water.
Ah, there
That's a
you
good
go.
one.
Very
That's a good
nice.
call.
I mean, obviously, the line between what is what is costuming and makeup and what is VFX there is up to interpretation, of course. But I think you also have all the sequences underwater are assisted with VFX. I go to the black and white sort of Fred Astaire dance sequence, which is assisted with VFX, and just the entire thing is of course enhanced with VFX, as most films made today are, quite seamlessly, I would say, and really transports you into this Guillermo del Toro crafted like our world, but not quite. It feels just that little bit heightened with the use of VFX in many cases.
Del Toro core.
Yes.
Del Toro Coro.
Del Coro.
Okay, there we go. I am gonna go with my inspiration because it hit me like a lightning bolt, and it was like, wow, like, you just can't not pick this one for visual effects. It's got to be Ben-Hur. Come on, Ben-Hur being an older film. What was it? 1959. 59. Okay. That massive chariot race scene at the end of the movie, the boat battle scene towards the beginning, all these examples of large, real life, practical effects, but that I believe are worthy of the visual effects nomination because of the way that they impact you so heavily while you watch the film. I think that Ben-Hur simply cannot succeed without its spectacle. It is a spectacular movie, and I was so blown away at so many different parts in that film. You're like, they really did this? Like, wow.
When they make Jesus's face into a black void, that's VFX.
That's VFX. We don't get to see old Christ Lord.
Old J-Town.
All right, let's
What
move
category
on.
is next, Team Up?
all right. The next category is going back to ones that we have made up. This category is most boring.
Oh yeah.
I think Tucker, you are quite the critic of boring films. So start us off. What do you
The
nominate?
progenitor of this award. It was his idea.
Yeah, no, it was. And this is one that I needed to make because we have spent a lot of our history of Quest judging things on if they engage us or not based on the structure and pacing and themings of older films that sometimes hold up spectacularly and oftentimes don't. And finding them boring is part of the reason why, as Abram said earlier, a lot of them don't stick with you. You don't find it engaging in the moment, and you especially don't 2 years down the line. But I'm actually going to be nominating one of the most recent episodes of the Quest for the Bestest, which is a film that I mentioned in the review that I thought was easily the most boring Best Picture winner. Cavalcade. That film is structured poorly. It is written poorly, and all of these things lead to not being interested in the characters, not feeling any stakes, no reason to sit up, be engaged, listen to what anyone is saying. There's very little thematic value. It is, I think, by far the most boring Best Picture winner. Because even some of the other bad ones, I'm engaged with them for other reasons. I might not like them on the whole, but Cavalcade is so boring that it knocks out any redeeming factors it could possibly have for me.
Yeah.
Abram, you're next.
Around the World in 80 Days is my choice.
Okay.
I there was a couple things I was trying to think about. I was trying to think about which films did I sort of get the sleepiest during, which ones took the most sessions to finish.
Yeah.
And while I'm not sure that Around the World in 80 Days is the film during Quest for the Bestest that I fell asleep the most during, nor is it necessarily the one that took the most sessions, it had enough sessions needed and enough sleepiness accrued that it just wins as a totality. So
Yeah.
I just think that movie is so fucking goddamn long. And other than just like pointing out things that are outrageously offensive about it, there's really nothing to do.
Yeah.
Let's go dick around in a hot air balloon for like 15 minutes. It's fucking stupid.
Probably 3 hours, but
Yeah.
in any case, yeah.
I'll go next. My most boring movie is gonna be The English Patient.
Oh God, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
That was a ridiculously boring movie in that it had premise. It could have been interesting, but it just wasn't. I don't remember a lot about the plot. We had the kind of confusing narrative, and we're in the character. One of the main characters is stationary, like a lot of the film. And I think that the philosophy of the movie was at least a little bit interesting. Like the themes kind of got somewhere, but if you just weren't paying attention to the themes at all, oh my lord, just boring, a snooze fest. So
It says a lot that we can call The English Patient a film wherein there's a scene where one of our characters needs to defuse a giant bomb. One of the most boring that we've seen. It takes a special talent for The English Patient for the rest of the movie.
I low-key hate
job,
The English
Anthony
Patient.
Minghella.
I hate that
Yeah.
movie.
And I'm gonna go another film that has, maybe one moment of intrigue, but is just weighed down by the rest of the film, and maybe that is more of an indictment, and that's gonna be Chariots of Fire.
Oh God, that's a great pick.
Yeah,
Holy
I mean, you
shit.
of course have the iconic moment where they're running on the beach, but can anyone remind me of any context around that scene?
They're training for the Olympics.
Character names,
No.
any
Henry?
conflict that happens in the film. Henry's
Judaism?
a good. Sure, yeah. To Abram's discussion as well, I was also thinking about ones that I fell asleep while watching, and Chariots
Yeah.
of Fire, I was in and out. I distinctly
Yes.
remember that. So
I also just need to shout out the last
And are
Emperor.
still rested from that movie.
Yeah.
The Last Emperor, for the long time, as OG Quest fans will know, was the boring threshold.
oh, of course.
was.
Stuff that
I-
wasn't boring would go above it, and stuff that was boring would go below it, because we
Right.
couldn't really decide if the Last Emperor was indeed boring or not.
So
Yes.
it was surpassed by, you guys are right, all of these films definitely fall below it, but I just think the fact that it became the watermark is worth
Yes.
shouting
That's
out.
that is
Absolutely.
worth noting. Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that I decided to create the award is because I consistently remembered us referencing that. But it also means that it was the bar for boringness. And
So-
that means there's a lot of movies below that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, up
Tim, what's
next. Our next category of nominees, I should say, is supporting actress. So I've been making you guys start a lot of these. I'll start this next one. I am gonna go with Joan Crawford as Flemshin in the movie Grand Hotel.
Oh.
Nice.
I am a Grand Hotel lover. I love that
Yeah.
movie. And Flemshin's character takes the secondary role, I believe, to Greta Garbo's character in the film.
Yeah.
But is a fiery new woman Berliner type, has a lot of great moments, a lot of good one-liners in the film, gets to engage with a lot of the cast, and just brings a lot of warmth and heart to that film, and fills the ensemble cast out quite well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm picking Abram. Abram, you're next.
I am going with Deborah Winger from Terms of Endearment.
That's such a good pick.
Nice,
She's on my
nice.
list. Oh, yeah.
I think that there's two relationships I think Deborah Winger greatly elevates in that film. One is with Jack Nicholson, which is hilarious,
Mhm.
and the other is with our main actress. I think that these familial dynamics, as we sort of chip away at Deborah Winger's tensions with seemingly everybody, is very, as the title might suggest, endearing. And I find that she's just incredibly charismatic. She handles these comedic scenes as deftly as she handles the emotional ones.
Yeah.
And she just leaves a great impression on me when I look back on the roster of Best Picture films.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tucker, you're next.
I am going to choose one of the films that actually has the supporting actress as the title of the movie, which is, of course, Diane Keaton in Annie Hall. She
Mm.
portrays maybe the most charming character I've ever seen on film. She has so much personality. She has so many different quirks. And you get to see her change and over the course of the film. And the way that Diane Keaton portrays Annie Hall being a very sort of busybody, sort of nervous person at the beginning, and then the confident woman that she becomes by the end of it is utterly fascinating to watch. And on both ends, just so interesting. Like I'm always like, I want to know what Annie Hall is up to. Of course, it's through the lens of someone like talking about her life, but she still feels like she has her own personality, and she carries that movie. It's really fantastic.
I'm going to be corrective again with my pick here. Another actress this time who was, I believe, won Best Actress for this film. But I'm saying, no, Academy. No. She's a supporting performance, and you need to recognize her as such because she is still fantastic. And I love my antagonistic roles in supporting categories.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Louise Fletcher in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Ooh.
Again,
Yeah.
just a brilliant antagonistic force in this. Much more
Iconic.
subtle, iconic, much more subtle than Anthony Hopkins was in Silence of the Lambs, of course. But that's what this film asks her to do, is to be the nurse who understands all of the intricacies of her patients' like psychoses
Yeah.
and knows how to shut them down and needle them and just return them to a sniveling core that she likes to, just roll over for the entirety of the film. I am reminded of I'm forgetting character names. It's been a long time since we saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but the young gentleman who has, his mother issues, really, his maternal issues, and she asks just with one simple line, "What would your mother think of this?" And then she just completely destroys him in that moment, and she sells every single note of that performance. So Louise Fletcher.
Are you talking about Brad Dourif's character?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's Billy Bibbit.
Yeah, Billy Bibbit, of course. Thank you.
How could you forget?
I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
there are a lot of great picks for this category.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this actually might be one of the ones that I had the toughest time
What else you got?
choosing. One that I want to shout out is Park So Dam in Parasite.
Yep.
She has so many iconic moments. She really commands the scenes that she is in. Marlee Matlin in
Yes.
Coda. That's a great pick. Any other ones you want to shout out?
Lupita Nyong'o, 12 Years a Slave.
Sure. Oh, I should have picked that. Fuck.
Yeah.
Shit.
Sorry.
I'm so stupid.
That's okay.
God. Janelle Monáe in Moonlight.
Yes.
Oh, another great one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few indeed.
There's a lot.
Well, there's not quite a few nominees in this next category because this one, it's a bit of a joke. International Best Picture winner. What's our nominees? I think there's only one choice, isn't there?
Well, yeah. Who do you want to throw it to?
Tanner, you take it away.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to go with Parasite. I mean, it made history as being the first international film to win Best Picture. So how can you not pick it? Is the question that I ask.
You
I
can't
think
not pick it.
I think the answer is you can't not pick it.
There's the punchline, but I'm.
Oh, very good.
Okay, moving on. Makeup and hairstyling. Abram,
Yeah.
who do you nominate in this category?
This is the other one I wasn't sure about, but I'm gonna go with Titanic. I think that the ways that we're able to transform, particularly Leonardo DiCaprio, is amazing. That reveal when he's all dressed up for the nice dinner, down with Rose's family, and he's all suave. It's partially just his generally boyish charm that sells me there, but I think that everybody looks so fucking posh in Titanic, and I think that was some really deliberate work done there. It's not only make them look good when they're all suited up, but look nice when they're dirty at the beginning of the film, or when they're in the midst of the chaos of the last act. And Billy Zane's hair is kind of askew, but in like a hot way. I think it's very, very deliberately done.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go next. I'm gonna pick for makeup and hairstyling The Shape of Water, which
That's
we already
sick.
picked
Yep.
one.
Yep.
But I believe that the makeup and is particularly what sells our creature into being a real life thing that exists in the film, as well
Not the Fishman.
as
Specifically not.
there are no fishmen. Don't even.
Yeah.
think.
No, we don't want to go there.
And some of the more body horror elements that Del Toro delights us in towards the end of the
Yeah.
film, with the fingers and the
Finger.
blood, the fingers coming off, and the.
Hey, Abram, you remember those pussy, bleedy fingers? You remember that?
Yes,
So
sadly, I do.
I think that part of the reason why that film works so well is because the makeup and hairstyling is creating a very naturalistic and believable world.
Absolutely.
Okay, Tucker.
There's only one film where they made someone's hair into a bagel, and that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, this movie has some of the most varied makeup and hairstyling that I've seen. Of course, that is an intentional part of mixing that with the alternate universes and the costumes and stuff. But makeup and hairstyling stood out to me in a way that doesn't usually. I mean, you guys point out some great makeup and hairstyling, but for me, what the movies that take it a step above and show like what this medium makeup and hairstyling can be done, like pushed to its fucking limits. That's what Everything Everywhere All at Once did for me. So that's my pick.
Yeah.
You just think about Stephanie Hsu with her like crazy makeup on at the end.
Yeah.
That's got like modern like there's like squares and circles and like half lipstick, part lipstick. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
So my other picks, my primary picks have been plucked away at throughout this conversation. So I'm just gonna go with Return of the King. just some really solid wig work going on there. Some
work.
smudging of soot across the face, and you got to do it for a lot of people. So hey,
Did you
yeah.
know? Did you know that most of the riders and the riders of the Rohirrim were women, and they had to make them look like men? Yes, stuff like that.
Absolutely,
Sad-
sure, of course.
Sadly, we could only pick from the Best Picture winners, so we could not choose Suicide Squad for hair. and makeup.
No. Sadly indeed.
Okay, moving on. We're gonna go to another of our original inventions categories. This one is the film that is least likely to be a Best Picture winner, but indeed is. So a stereotype, mold-breaking film that goes outside the bounds of what we came to acknowledge as like the Best Picture canon or the prototypical Best Picture winners. This nominee is the atypical one, the black sheep of the family.
This is a fascinating category because a lot of the conversation we had over the course of watching 90 plus movies is what is this canon? What is Oscar bait? Which ones of these winners fall into different categories? What are good examples? What are bad examples? But even if we might not be able to specifically describe it, it's a general oeuvre that our minds can glom onto. It's epics, it's historical things, it's period pieces, it's long movies, it's for the most part, like films that are taking after older themes, but there are movies that subvert that, and these are those nominees.
Why don't you start us off,
nice.
Tucker? Give us what you think is your nominee for least likely Best Picture winner.
Now, there have been multiple recently that really buck that trend. I'd be interested to see if any of you guys snap those up. But I think the one that really stepped out at me from our early days, it is like, why the fuck did this win? It's going my way.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
A short, light, kind of funny movie, half-assed musical, nothing really to it. Not any like killer performances or killer themes. It's not long. It's not about war. It's about a guy.
It's just about well, Tucker, I got two words for you, and it ties into the guy. Why did it win Best Picture? Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
Baseball.
That's true. We love baseball, the great American pastime.
Church burning.
Okay.
Who's next?
You are, Tanner. You're next.
Okay. I'm also going to toss it back. Not as far as Tucker's going with going my way, but one that redefined the Best Picture oeuvre, especially coming out of the safe and secular 60s, and that is going to be Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
The first ever rated X film to win Best Picture. The subject matter is
First
just...
of many?
Yeah, well, and apparently the rating was later changed to R, but still the first rated R picture to win Best Picture at that point. But the subject matter, you have our John Voight playing a male prostitute who goes around and has illicit sexual encounters with other men throughout dirty, grimy New York City. It's about poverty. It's about like the reshaping of New York City at the time by these yuppies moving in and pushing out all the poor people. Really interesting, and ends on a tragic ending as well. Not a happy ending either. So yeah, I gotta go Midnight Cowboy.
With quite a few like artistic and art film elements thrown in there that are quite atypical.
Yeah.
Okay. Abram, you get to go next. You get the chance to steal mine, because maybe you will.
I'm going with The Shape of Water.
He does.
Nice,
He's
yeah.
Yeah, I think Shape of Water is really interesting because it's incredibly strange just on a conceptual level. Sally Hawkins has sex with a fish, man. That's the movie, folks. And then you add in the incredibly sort of eerie and irreverent kind of Art Deco, sunken art direction, production design that I absolutely love. And then you put it up against films that are frankly far more typical, that I actually think are better, like Lady Bird, which was also up for Best Picture that year. There's and 3 Billboards and various things that were also up against Shape of Water that sort of seemed like the movie to take.
Yeah.
But it was Shape of Water. And even though Shape of Water is not my favorite from that year by any stretch, and it's kind of yucky, like the fingers and things like that, I think that it's elements like those fingers that make it such a distinct addition to the canon.
Absolutely. That was definitely one of the ones I was pointing at. Like, it's crazy that I still think about that sometimes. Like, that what they
They
the
picked it.
Academy chose that?
They
picked
picked the
that one.
Fishman sex movie.
Are they okay? Like, did they have a fever that day?
Probably.
They did the Green Book to balance it back out.
Yeah,
a great
they
point.
did. They did.
And then it went back to Parasite.
Yeah, there you go. And then back to Coda.
I don't think you could
No.
compare Coda
And over to
Green Book.
Timo.
Nomadland, Tanner.
Oh, Nomadland. Excuse me.
I am going to pick The Artist as my nominee for least likely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that one's deserving in that it is a modern silent film, but it is also a French movie. We kind of joke about Parasite being international, but The Artist kind of doesn't have American crew and American actors, and it's made by a French director. And
Yeah.
I think that it, as a silent film, reverence for the old ways, reverence for Hollywood is a very Hollywood trope, but I don't actually think it's a super big Best Picture trope because many of these movies have nothing to do with film at all. And the ones that do are often towards the bottom because they deal with Broadway and their melodies. So The Artist succeeds despite that. And I think it's quite a unique film on the list. Only one of 2 silent movies, so it's got to have something for that. And the other silent movie was from the silent time, so it was totally likely to be Best Picture winner. You can't make the same argument.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good list, guys.
Nice. Other ones I want to shout because I had quite the list here. I also had Rocky in there as well.
Great
Great
pick.
choice.
I had
Yeah.
Parasite,
Definitely.
and I had Silence of the Lambs as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was mulling over Mutiny on the Bounty for one of them.
Okay.
I
What's
like
your explanation for that? I don't think
Because
that's...
there's not a lot of pirate movies in the Best Picture category.
That's true. There's no pirate
I guess that's
movies.
true.
Also,
But
it's
it's
not a
historically
pirate
based, and
movie.
it's an epic, and I don't know.
It is
I don't-
based.
Uh-huh.
Great movie.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, good.
We have to
Okay.
do
Timo.
all the rewatch all these Best Picture winners, guys.
Next year.
Up next is costume design. The best fits and the best outfits.
The best duds.
That's what the duds and the fits. Outfit
Uh-huh.
is short for outfit. I've just realized. Tucker, you will start us with this one. What do you think is your nominee?
Now, I think the easy one is for me to pair up makeup and hairstyling for everything ever all at once about these categories, and I'm not going to do that.
Oh.
I gotta support my best gal and do My Fair Lady because goddamn, there's some costumes in that
Nice.
movie. They really went above and beyond with some of the stuff there, and when I'm thinking about crazy costumes and really extravagant stuff in a movie, My Fair Lady is the one that jumps out at me. When I think about Victorian era dresses and big poofy stuff, that stuff usually does not appeal to me. My brain usually shuts off. When you put funny ass characters in these crazy costumes, I'm like, you know something. You're playing into the bit. And I like it. I appreciate it. And the costume design really sells that.
Nice.
Remember when all the costumes were black and white? Remember that? That was
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
when they're all like monochrome during the
Yeah.
horse race scene. Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
sequence.
Abram, what's your pick for best costume?
Ooh, I'm gonna do it, Tucker. I'm gonna take everything everywhere from you.
Good.
Nice.
It feels fairly self-evident, but I think that for me, creativity when it comes to costumes is maybe the most important element. And I think there's a lot of films on this list that do the expected well, but a lot harder than matching a period is matching nonsense. And everything everywhere all at once is nonsense, and they sell nonsense. And I think that's a very, very hard thing to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. Why not?
Go for it.
I am going to pick Lord of the Rings Return of the King for costume design because, of course, I did. By sheer volume, this film is impressive. They made a bajillion costumes, but also in that it is a fantasy movie and that none of the costumes can look like anything that we know. And the visual style and the visual language of the costumes in Return of the King, Aragorn's beautiful when he's riding out towards the gate of Mordor in his like kingly outfit. It just shows how far he's come from the very beginning when you see him 3 films earlier at the inn in Bree, and he's in his rags and he's got his hood up. I think that the costumes tell the story really well, and they identify who is who and what we should kind of think about each of the people based off of what they're wearing. And
Always judge a book by its cover. Peter Jackson.
it's Lord of the Rings. I can't not give it some nominations here and there.
Because it's based on a book. That's why you got to judge it by the cover.
That's a sure.
I'm
Boy,
There's
howdy.
some bad covers though.
Depends. I'm picking. I'm going to Chi-Town, baby. I'm going Chicago for costumes.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
All the flapper dresses, we are decked out from head to toe in glitter, in rhinestones, in sparkles.
nines.
We are swinging back and forth with all the tassels going everywhere. You got the men in their big double-breasted 1930s suits, and they're walking around. We're doing costume changes, of course, for the musical sequences, where we really get to like take it up to 11 in terms of, as the film says, giving it the old razzle-dazzle here.
Yeah.
And then you even have, like, the more hyped musical sequences where you have, like, circus performers just swinging around in a courtroom, and they're all in these giant, extravagant costumes. And also you have the period accuracy, but that's the most boring part. Chicago takes those period-accurate costumes and really just blasts them in your face with so many spotlights and colors and reds and blacks and whites. It's incredible. Love the costumes in Chicago.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I want to keep going because we've got to judge some books. We have to judge the next two categories paired back to back
Done.
are original and then adapted screenplay. So for original
ones.
screenplay,
These are big.
These are big. Tanner, who are you nominating in this original writing category?
Okay. I gotta do it because no one else will. And because I'm the one holding this film up on my shoulders. I was in the review. I'm the biggest fan of this movie here by a long shot. It's not gonna get any nominations from any of you motherfuckers elsewhere. I'm going Spotlight.
I knew it. There you go. Yeah.
I'll do a little spiel for Spotlight here. I mean, of course, you have it being based on a true event, but you have to adapt those events into this original screenplay, of course. And then you're balancing a cast full of characters very, very well. You have to write the twists and turns of this real life event, of the journalistic aspects being uncovered. I mean, what other film can you say that makes the releasing of court documents so intriguing and has you on the edge of your seat with Mark Ruffalo sitting in that courtroom just waiting for it to open? And then you have some incredibly well-written moments. I think back to the moment, again, with Mark Ruffalo, between him and Michael Keaton screaming at each other about whether the story's ready or not. Can they go live? Should we make it bigger? Shouldn't we? How could they do this? They did this to kids. We have to let people know that they can't get away with this. Fantastic moments wall to wall. Love Spotlight.
Yeah. Abram, you're up
Yes,
next.
Thank you. I was afraid because my favorite screenplay is a Best Picture winner, and I was worried that somebody else would snatch it from me, and that is Parasite.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I think that Parasite is so malevolent, and that's what I love most about it. It is mean to everybody, but what's great about Parasite is through its meanness, it conveys so much systemic meaning. It's also the most based movie on the Quest for the Bestest roster.
Yep.
So I find it to be so witty and poignant and just sort of devious. It's a devious movie. I absolutely love the screenplay of Parasite.
Yeah,
Great pick. It's a great pick.
of course.
Tucker, you're next.
I gotta do it. I gotta go Everything Ever All at Once, which I think, much like Abram, is my favorite screenplay of all time. Similar situation. Parasite was my number 2 to pick because that's another one of my favorite screenplays. But Everything Ever All at Once does what Abram was talking about with the costumes for nonsense, but also with the writing. I think it's a very crazy job to do, to have people teleporting between 20 fucking worlds, and it's ridiculous, and they have to explain it all in a not particularly long movie, and have it make sense, and also make compelling character dynamics. And they do that in spades, in every single scene. And it always makes sense. And you always know the emotional stakes, and the character growths, and the character moments, and how things tie back to the first scene in the movie, and then the last scene, and then everything's tying back, and then the characters are here and they're there, and it all flows. It's all natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's organic.
Au natural.
It's a reference to the movie. Remember, she gets the catch, it's organic. I actually don't like that moment. I think it's cringy, but I referenced the movie, so that's got to count for something.
Okay.
Timo.
So Abram took mine, so I'm going to a backup. And this backup it's kind of an interesting one. It's kind of out of left field, perhaps. For original screenplay, I'm going to pick Nomadland.
Interesting.
Wait. I don't think you can pick that.
Yeah, I think that's based on a book.
Is it based on a book?
I have the book. I hate to say it, Timo, but that is an adapted screenplay.
Yep.
Now we're gonna run. I've run out of backups now because of
You
my
know what you have to
research.
pick? You know what you have to pick?
No. It is an original screenplay as well.
I don't want to pick it. I don't want to pick it. Oh my god. Well, do I
Timo,
have?
if you can weasel your way out of this, you get one more chance.
I get
Pick
one more
a
chance
Best
to
Picture winner
name a
and-
best picture winner with that
original
is an
screenplay.
original.
Yeah.
It's rather difficult to know sometimes if it's an original screenplay or not.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And some things like I think, oh, Moonlight, that's a great movie with a great script based on a play, not original.
Yeah.
Like, Well,
Do
okay.
you want me to give you one?
No, I'm going for one. We're gonna give it to Coda. That is
Nope.
not bit.
That doesn't count. That doesn't
That's
count.
based on
sorry.
another film. That's
They're all
an
based on other
film.
things. Oh yes,
Yeah.
that one's based on that French
It's a
movie.
remake. So
Yeah.
So Scott-
He
Timo,
failed.
you,
He failed.
you whiffed your one chance.
Yeah,
Timo's pick is Crash.
Original screenplay.
Yeah.
You choke it at the worst
Oh.
moment.
Well, it's all right. I'll vote for Abrams' pick anyway.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh boy. When this goes down in the record books, people are gonna look back at this and say,
Be like,
they
wow.
picked fucking Crash in original screenplay?
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally. There'll be an asterisk next to that in the history books.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Let's
adapted-
Titanic was my
let's-
other.
Titanic.
Sure. That'd be
I
good
also
pick.
had American Beauty and Rocky.
Those are all
Yeah.
great choices. Rocky
Yeah.
was another one of mine.
Oh man.
Well, I failed. Whatever. I'm not gonna fail in this next category. Adapted screenplay. I think. Do I get
Well,
punished?
redeem yourself. Yeah,
I'll redeem
yourself.
myself. All right. Well, I will need to take a moment. I'll just be quite a moment. I'll be back. I'm gonna go get the source material. You know what this
Oh.
one is.
Okay. Let's
Oh,
vamp
yeah.
for time here.
Wait, do we?
I
Probably
I
Return of
can't-
the King.
I can't believe that he whiffed it twice.
Oh,
Of
Lawrence of
course.
Arabia for adapted screenplay. They
Okay,
had to
okay.
adapt this massive book into that massive movie. And my God, I think the screenplay in Lawrence is truly amazing. The way that it weaves us through this journey of Lawrence when we see him as an idealistic young fellow and he gets tormented by the desert and the horrors of war and he becomes a creature almost inhuman towards the end. It's philosophical. It has to deal with real world events. It calls into question all kinds of themes. I think it's like a masterwork of writing. And somehow you can make that movie 4 hours long. And I don't think that they need to remove any of it. I think that the screenplay knits the whole film together as an almost literary work.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
An adapted literary work, one
Yes.
might say.
Okay.
Hey,
Tanner, Tanner, you're next.
Okay. Timo mentioned my pick already, actually, in his spiel for original. I'm going to pick Moonlight for adapted
Oh,
screenplay
okay.
based on a play. And I just have to say, like, you think back to all the moments, and you can feel the adaptation here, but it's also just that. The adaptation is what's important in Moonlight. You have it based on a play, and it maintains that DNA of being all tied up in our one central figure, our one central character studying Chiron, or Black, as he becomes known. And
Chiron, by the way, not
Chi-
Chiron.
I was thinking Percy Jackson, I think. Anyway, Chiron. You're all tied up in the intricacies of his mind, in his life. You see him at 3 separate stages. It has the very drawn out, or not drawn out, but very clearly defined 3-act structure, which is, punctuated by these fantastic moments, whether it be with his mother or Mahershala Ali, and you even have like those moments that I'm sure we all remember, like when he hits that other student over the head with a chair, when it just so comes at you so suddenly. That's a written moment. Or the final meeting between him and his sort of past lover slash best friend. That's a written moment, and that's why I have to go with Moonlight. It is just so expertly written.
Now, Tanner doesn't like that I don't like Spotlight, and I don't like that Tanner thinks that Argo is a gimmick. Because I think that Argo is an incredibly fun screenplay. It might be a little bit flowery, but I also find it to be a very, very engaging watch, and I do think that a lot of the incredible tension that is evoked by that film begins in the script. Now, there's some very
really
exciting...
tugs your balls.
Tucker, it tugs them and it tugs them and it keeps on tugging, in my opinion.
Twists them too.
A little torsion, yes. That's
And
very important.
It's always a nice addition.
Yeah, yeah.
But I find
Stick to
that
the torsion.
'cause
Argo.
we often talk about how a script is more than dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a great example of how the blocking of a lot of sequences and the chains of events that leave me gripping my chair and leave various things happening to my balls all begin on that page. So I'm giving it to Argo.
Now, what would
Nice.
happen if we were to spontaneously add the ball tugging category?
The movie that tugs your balls the most.
Yeah. Think on it. I think that'd be
Okay.
kind of fun. But I'm going last here, and I'm going to pick something very different from what all you guys have picked, but a movie that in the review I said is one of the best screenplays of all time.
Hamlet?
And that's All About Eve.
Of course.
All About Eve.
Very good.
A film that we actually got multiple comments on our review saying that they agreed with me that it is one of the screenplays of all time. And I think that that film does such interesting things with balancing character work and subverting your expectations throughout and keeping a pretty large group of characters all in your mind at different times. And I think it is just one, it has some most memorable lines, some memorable moments. It's just, it's a screenplay ass movie.
Mhm.
And I really think that it sells itself on that fact and almost that fact alone.
A very good pick. Okay. Well, let's keep this train rolling. I want to talk about some music here. Let's do score.
Nice.
And for score, I think Abram should begin.
Yes, I'm gonna go. This is a weird pick, but if I can't have Blade Runner, I'll take him elsewhere because I'm going with Chariots of Fire.
Oh, I see.
Because I think Vangelis' score for Chariots of Fire is so good that it makes a film that is otherwise rather unremarkable a whole hell of a lot more engaging. And I love a good synth. Does it belong there? Maybe not. Did it sound like Blade Runner as I was listening? Yes, but you know what? I'm biased. Go fuck
But does
yourself.
it sound cool? Yes, it does.
It sounds
Yes, it
real
sounds
goddamn
cool.
cool.
And that's all that matters in the best score section.
Tanner, you're next.
Oh, okay. Now I know Tucker has been just chilling out for Everything Everywhere All at Once here, but I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna pick it up here with Everything Everywhere All at Once's score. Son Lux doing this one, and really just stood out to me. I remember noting it in our review for it as a nominee, and how it was the second time I watched that film, and it really just stuck out at all the right moments for me when we are just again bringing up the synth, bringing up that like postmodernist sound that has frankly not really been done in many Best Picture winners, but
No,
like
definitely not.
pushing the idea of a film score forward, I think, especially in a Best Picture winner. So for that reason, I have to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay. Tucker, I'm going to go next.
Sure.
I would pick Lawrence for this category, but I think that there is an even better score. It's in the similar vein of classic and epic. It's got to be Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It must be, because, let's be real. John Williams didn't really score a whole lot of Best Picture winning films. And this score is the one that is firmly implanted in my mind, and it will be for the rest of my life. It was for the previous of my life too, but it will continue to be. It is so memorable, so inspiring, and so fitting for an epic film of that scale. It's almost like the songs in The Lord of the Rings in general and Return of the King specifically were written to go along with the book, and like the magnitude of the swelling horns and orchestra like matches the story and the epicness of this conclusion so very well. It's an excellent score. Howard Shore is the composer. I really
Yeah,
love
I was
it.
about to say, I was like, John Williams was not correct.
Yeah, you did say John Williams was like.
No, well, because I
John
I
Williams?
would pick a John Williams score
Oh,
if
I
he had
see
gotten
what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
some
Okay.
winnings, but not really.
Okay.
All right. Fair
I
enough.
was looking at John Williams' filmography and I'm
I
like,
know John Williams didn't do Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
I was gonna say
It's Howard
Okay.
Shore.
Tucker.
Yeah, what do you think?
now, there is one movie that has my favorite film score of all time that won Best Picture.
Mhm.
And that's The Shape of Water.
Thank
But
you.
I'm not picking that.
Fuck you.
Because I'm
Gasp.
going with of Driving Miss Daisy. Because it's the only place this
Ah.
movie could possibly get nominated on
Fair.
any of this list, and it's not my favorite score, but now that's a movie that is largely unremarkable, but kicks itself in the fucking ass 6 Ways to Sunday by having a jamming goddamn score.
Hans,
Driving Miss Day.
God bless you, Hans.
Hans will do anything. He'll score. You give him a commercial, he'll score it.
That's
but
true.
this, he put his whole zamussy into it.
Very good. Very good.
Okay. That was not a great joke. Least deserving joke of the episode, perhaps. And so we're gonna
okay.
I'm gonna shoehorn this segue into.
I'm going like 9-1 here, so I'm okay with that.
The least deserving Best Picture winner, Abram. I want you to tell us what you nominate in this category.
So there's two. There's one. I'm going to talk about both. When we get to the special mentions.
That's okay.
But the one I have to pick is I have to pick Annie Hall. Now I like Annie Hall. I think Annie Hall is a good movie.
But what it beat?
It's no Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I do feel not only is Star Wars like my favorite thing, but I think that the snub of Star Wars was a massive, massive mistake. Because when I look at these categories that we've been talking about, when we think about things like score, when we think about things like production design, when we think about things like costuming, when we think about things like screenplay, what Star Wars did is an achievement of a magnitude that has maybe only been recaptured since by James Cameron. And the fact that it lost, to me, was a major mistake to not only celebrate an exceptional film, but also a film of a technical caliber and an industry-shaking caliber that's maybe never been matched. So, is this more me talking about Star Wars than Annie Hall? Yeah, kind of. But Annie Hall is least deserving because it should have been Star Wars, goddammit.
I mean, that's kind of the point of the category. Is it requires you to look at the other nominees and be like, really? This is the one you went with? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go next because I'm gonna pick an obvious one. Truly, we've talked about it enough already, I think. But Green Book truly did not deserve to win. It needs to be on this list of least deserving. And I mean, what can I say? The fact that they made this movie is bad enough, right? But then that they would deign to have it win too is just baffling. And I just think to some of the other movies that came out that year, and I'm like, no. Like it was just that's such a befuddling pick in the 2010s. You got to pick a movie like that. Like I don't. It's just it was such a dated pick. It would have been a fine pick for like the late 80s, but it's not that time anymore. So not deserving at all. Who's left? Tanner?
Tanner.
Okay.
You go next.
I am going to go with I have a number of picks here because the Academy's gotten it wrong a lot, a number of times. I have to go with one. Yeah, I know. It's the King's Speech because. Okay, I don't know.
I thought maybe you have two guts.
I do have two guts. I'm similar to a cow. Maybe I have 6 to 8 guts. But no, the King's Speech infamously, for me personally, at least, beat The Social Network. And if we're talking about a movie that seems so antiquated and like backward looking for the Academy's history versus a film that would have been, forward looking for where we are in the 2020s and covering a person who is maybe one of the most influential people in modern history, not to mention an expertly crafted film with fantastic performances.
All right.
And the score, oh my god. Never mind. But like, you compare it to The King's Speech, and you're like, yeah, it's a solid performance from Colin Firth, and it's about like the British aristocracy, and he gets over a stutter at the end, and but it cannot hold a candle to what I think my Star Wars personally, The Social Network.
Okay. Tucker, what do you say to round out our list of nominees?
Now, I'm glad that this man's got 2 guts, and that was a great gut to go with.
Thank you.
Tanner, you give me the opportunity to put one of the most notorious winning snubs of all time on here, because I can't believe that Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture over the fucking Saving Private Ryan.
Another one of the worst. Another one of the worst.
Jeez, God damn it! You kidding me?
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say Crash Over Brokeback Mountain, which is another one that I was gonna bring
Another
up because
classic.
that one is insane.
Yeah.
It
And
is insane.
also Coda over Dune because Coda is dumb.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. You
All
take
right,
it easy.
Stand
Take
down.
it easy.
Stand down.
Yeah. But no, I mean, beating Saving
That's a
Private
lot
Ryan.
of. We picked a really good slate of
And
picks here, guys.
If I may, Shakespeare in Love winning only because of the politicking by Harvey Weinstein. So
Yeah, yeah.
And that actually makes it deserve it significantly less.
of course, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now
Interesting.
back to the positive side, to a very deserving category: best
Most
editing.
deserving.
Most deserving. No, best editing in a motion picture. I think Abram should lead us off with this one, and then I'll
Go
go
for it.
next.
I'm gonna go with Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs has my favorite moment of editing in the entirety of film to exist, and that is
Likewise.
the raid on Buffalo Bill's house.
Yeah,
The way
yeah.
that sequence is executed to where you think it's the SWAT team going to Buffalo Bill's house, but it's actually Jodie Foster on her own is such an incredible moment. That fake out there is something that has tried to be emulated many times. I just watched the, for some reason, popular show SWAT. Just tried to do it, and I'm like, brother, you're not that guy.
Uh-huh.
You're not that
You're
guy. You are not.
No
Silence of the
Jonathan
Lambs.
Demme.
I also have to throw out for Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter's escape is just
Yes,
such
yes.
like a tight 10-15 minute sequence that is all reliant on what you see when you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great pick.
exceptional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am going to choose Schindler's List for editing because that film, as emotionally, I re-listened to our review of it, and we talked about how much it was just deeply, deeply affecting to us. And I think that the editing in Schindler's List propels it forward and keeps it so that we only are seeing these extraordinarily gruesome moments for just the right amount of time. The edits between like the faces of characters towards the end of the movie when he's reminiscing on or Liam Neeson's characters thinking about how, you know, he could have saved just one more life, and the way that we're cutting back and forth in those moments is so heartbreaking in that film. And so the story, but the way that the story is told through the filmmaking and through the cut is just phenomenal in that film.
Yeah.
Okay, Tucker?
I gotta go everything ever all at once. I'm a shill. I do not give a shit. I mean, this is the most edited movie of all time. And we joke about in some of these categories. Oh, makeup goes to most makeup. Okay, yeah, that's true most of the time. Sound goes to this movie that sounded the most, that was loudest, and like, how loud crazy shit going on. But for me, I would say that most editing is deserved here for a win. I think it did such unique things with editing that I was mentioning earlier with that screenplay. The two are so closely intertwined of cutting between like 3 locations that they shot at different times that they make feel like a person is just moving between them seamlessly, and there's dialogue going between them and voiceover and effects and all of that. And it's because of the editing that the movie, as nonsensical and ridiculous and jumping around as it is able to be comprehended at all. Like, they did such a good job putting things back to back in the right places that it feels like, man, whoa, they must have just done some crazy, effects here, like putting different things in the background. It's like, no, they had to edit together like 3 different weeks of shooting into one, 3-minute sequence, and they did it.
Yeah.
And God damn, it worked well.
I gotta go with the film that gave us the training montage and is still the gold standard for the training
brother.
montage, Rocky. I mean, that montage itself, as I said, still the gold standard, but altogether, very succinct, very well put together. You have, you cut between Rocky's home life and like Apollo and like the talking about we need to get a guy, the everyman. I gotta get somebody to fight. And then the very end, when the fight itself, that boxing match is also so well edited. I mean, how can you not? How can you not recognize Rocky, especially because Abram already shouted out Silence of the Lambs, which is the two that I was going back and forth between. Yes.
Great. Okay, continuing on, let's talk production design, sets, and whatnot. Tanner, you just went, but keep on keeping on. What do you pick
Now,
for
Timo,
production design?
You mentioned this film for VFX, and you were mentioning like all the big cool stuff in the film Ben-Hur and how that's so impressive. Like, to me, That's production design. I mean, I think back to the trivia that I mentioned when we reviewed Ben-Hur. They built all that shit. And that was all this is before VFX, this is before CGI, where you couldn't just copy paste all the dudes, okay? They had thousands of people there, all in costume, real chariots, throwing fucking meat puppets underneath of the wheels, building the giant coliseum, having the boats out there, and having scale models and stuff like that is also important. It also takes a lot of intricate detail. It's Ben-Hur. How could it not be Ben-Hur?
Yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah, very good pick. Tucker, what do you have?
I gotta go with Parasite. That movie and that house and the continuity of all of it is so visually distinct that I can't even think of a movie that tries to replicate it. Of course, the movie hasn't been out that long, but it is so distinct from that modernist production design perspective, and in the way that it contrasts that with the home at the very bottom of the hill and with all the trash and the pizza boxes and all of that. It's such a varied movie in terms of two areas being production design to hell, and the fact that they had to build this city block that they could then flood is these are top tier things. And when I think about a single location in a film, that Parasite house is up there in my top 5. And so Parasite is absolutely one of the best production design films in my humble opinion.
Very nice.
Okay.
We built a boat. We flooded a place. Oh, fuck you. We made half the Titanic. It has to be Titanic.
They only made half the Titanic. That's not that impressive.
Only half the Titanic.
Yeah. And at only 1/6 scale.
Yeah, boring.
I think it is such an achievement in size.
And this is coming from this man.
Okay, folks, I know size, and I know that it matters, and that there's a lot of it in Titanic. And even when you get down to the details, all of the china breaking at the end, and everything floating around in the fucking soup of the water, and the mess as the ship's falling apart, I think it does the broad strokes on a scale that is unprecedented, but it also punctuates that with details that I think gives this space so much life and so much personality. Everything from, wait for it, stem to stern in Titanic is just so beautifully placed.
Wow.
Very good.
Wow.
Timo?
Well, I am going to pick one that, I don't know if you guys see this one coming, but The Apartment is my pick for production design.
Nice.
I think this film has excellent, subtle production design. The office that he works in, our main character.
I remember the office shot.
It goes on and on and on and on, and the way they actually did it is they had at the very, very back, they had little cardboard cutouts of people waddling back and forth to make it simulate a gigantic office building. I think the film really puts us in the mind of our characters through the way that the sets look. The apartment is small and cluttered and messy. There's the way, what is it? It's Jack Lemmon. That's who it is, isn't it?
Yep.
The way that Jack Lemmon's character is feeling, and how him and Shirley MacLaine change when they're in different situations together. The work environment, the home environment, the bar, all these places are very evocative, and the black and white cinematography highlights these extremely intricately designed spaces.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, and for our next category here, we've got a very special one. It's just a single scene from a movie, the best scene in all of the Best Picture winners. Tanner, what are you going to nominate first in this category?
Okay, well, it's fitting that you would go to me, Timo. I appreciate that, because this is my category. I love singling out the best scenes in films in films. And since I, begrudgingly and sadly betrayed my OTP, my one true man, back in supporting actor, I'm going to go with the scene where Ruby sings to her father in Coda. I mean, if we're going to talk about a scene, there's lots of technically impressive stuff that we can shout out and all these Best Picture stuff. But if we're talking about a scene that cuts directly to your heart, that cold, dead heart that we all have hardly beating in our chests, it's this scene from Coda. So that's why I got to pick it.
Excellent pick. One for Troy Kotzer. One for our boy Troy.
It's also one that you referenced quite frequently during our review of that movie and subsequent other review of that movie, because we had to do twice as one. So there's precedence of this being an important scene.
Yes. Tucker.
Questidence.
A questident? That's like the carbungling. You're next,
Oh, no.
Tucker. What do you think about what are you
I'm gonna
nominating?
go for an incredibly iconic and enthralling scene from the first episode that we did. Of course, that was Parasite. And I'm gonna going with the placing the peach
Yes.
scene. I didn't really know what to call it. I don't know if there's like
I think
a
people just
general
call it the
term.
peach scene. I
Hard
think
to-
that's what I-
Scene?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
because it's
but-
more of a montage in the film, but it is a
Mhm.
scene. I agree with
Yeah.
you. Good.
Yeah, I
pick.
think that scene exemplifies everything that is so great about Parasite. I think it does some incredible things with production design, pacing, controlling multiple characters, and making it all understandable, having this really weird tension. You don't quite know what's going on, and everything about that montage, you're right, it is. It's not necessarily a scene in the traditional sense, but I think encapsulates why Parasite is special in Bong Joon-ho's sort of directorial, authorial voice as a director.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's the scene that sticks for me most from one of these movies.
Nice.
Nice. Abram, you're next.
That was very close, Tucker, because I also have a scene from Parasite.
Oh.
And I was a little concerned that you're going to take mine. Now, are we okay with me choosing a second scene from the same film? Is that we all right with
Go
that?
for it.
It'll be a
Okay.
Parasite v Parasite battle.
Mm-hmm.
The scene, and it will be because this is you're not gonna have anything better, Timo. I'm sorry to say it, but there's no way you have a better scene than when our family, our titular family,
Mm-hmm.
is under the table.
Of course.
Oh, sure. Oh, man.
And I don't want to say anything more than that in case anybody here. Well, I believe all four of us have seen Parasite, but if anybody in
Yeah,
the
I
audience
think so.
I
has,
did make a video
Um,
review of it a couple of years
Mhm.
ago.
there's a moment wherein two families are put together spatially in a way that suggests a lot visually about class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the ways they act and the ways they speak about each other, or the ways they make eye contact with each other to say things non-verbally, is so powerful that it illustrates to me exactly why, as I said earlier in the video, Parasite has my favorite screenplay of all time. It's this deft mix of subtleism and a very overt visual language and dialogue that harmonizes in this way to create a scene that's super layered in what it's trying to say, to where you can take it on a bunch of different levels and enjoy it. But what you can also do is just sit there and hold your breath because it's a scene of such great tension. There are several moments of tension I was thinking about to maybe nominate here. The airport escape from Argo, for instance. But I don't think any of the ones I was going to
Ball
raise...
tugging scene.
Yeah, a ball tugging scene. I don't think any of them are as thematically ball tugging as they are sort of viscerally ball tugging. And
Sure.
this scene of this movie tugs you two ways, if not more.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is some tugging going on in the scene as well, if you think
There
about
is.
it.
There
Yeah.
is.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a much more wholesome pick. I'm gonna go back
Okay.
in time to one of the best pictures winners of all time, one of the most remembered films, one of the films of the 20th century, Casablanca, with
Okay.
the singing of Le Marseillaise in Rick's
Oh, sure.
American Cafe.
Oh my God! Yes.
It
Yeah,
Thank
Ken
is-
loves that scene too.
It
Yeah.
is the scene that defines what Casablanca is about. Casablanca, I think, being one of the most important Best Picture winners, get us into World War II, fight those Nazis. We get a scene in which the German officers start singing some kraut songs. So they sing some kraut rock, but are patriotic Frenchies. And Rick, as a patriotic anti-fascist, tells his band to play Les Marseillaise, and they all get up and they sing bum 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 bum. And that scene always gives me chills down my spine for what it
Same
has
here.
for this complicated political meshing of, North Africa in World War II, as well as these character notes that are hitting in the film, in the way
Well,
that
and we're doing close-ups of like the French people as they're like crying and singing at the top of their lungs.
and there's
Dude.
I forget her name, but there's a character earlier that's like trying to a female character that's trying to come on to a German officer quite a lot, and she's a French, and some of the other characters give her some shit for being a bit of a traitor. But then in this scene, her character arc is completed, and it ends with her standing the most upright and crying the most out of all the characters in the scene. That scene is great. I love it. We got good picks here. This is going to be tricky to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we
Oh.
want to do some other alternative choices that anyone had? I had a lot for this category because I love picking out best scenes.
I mean, There's so many
Go
to
for
think
it,
of.
man.
I'm thinking
I-
over on my shoulder here out of this
Okay.
movie.
Oh, sure. I also had the peach scene, Tucker. I had the baptism murders from The Godfather.
That's
I
mine.
had Hannibal Lecter's escape from Silence of the Lambs. I had the hotel shootout, the confrontation in No Country for Old Men, the Christmas party from The Apartment, and I just had all great scenes there.
I'm thinking about the very end of the Titanic sinking scene in James Cameron's film. That
Yeah,
ship.
you can't really say the Titanic sinking scene because it's also like that's like
It's
90 minutes of the movie.
legitimately
Yeah.
half the film. No, I'm thinking the right as the ship goes down. That is
Sure.
very with the band players.
Yeah.
Tanner, you hit a lot of mine. The Godfather baptism and the motel shootout were my two main backups. My fourth reserve, if I needed it, was Jack and Rose on the bow of the ship when Rose is going to probably kill herself.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
a
love
great scene. Yeah.
love the moment when Jack's like, okay, well, I gotta jump in after you, and starts taking off his shoes. I think it's just such a beautifully written and played out scene.
And I gotta give my shout out to This Is How I Fight from Everything Everywhere.
Yep.
I think that is an encapsulation of what that entire movie does great in terms of emotional payoff, amazing acting, but also simultaneously there's Gong Gong's like got his mech suit made out of like rice cooker behind him, and like Evelyn gets like puts an eyeball on her forehead. It's like what the fuck is going on? But also Kei Kwan delivering one of the most powerful moments of last year simultaneously with all the ridiculousness going on in the background. So a lot of great scenes. From,
All good stuff.
I would say a few great movies.
Yeah, some.
At least. Bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going next?
We are
It
gonna.
was a fun one.
This is a fun one because we're gonna exit the intense movie discussion and talk about something I would much rather talk about, which is ourselves. This next category is who is the most wrong. So we are tasked here with nominating one of us, a Quest presenter, and a film in which they were the most wrong in their opinion about it. I guess to demonstrate, I'll start on this one because
Sure.
I just got to throw it out there. This wasn't a great movie, but I think Tucker was the most wrong about Hamlet because oh boy, that is a ridiculous and hilarious episode if you can distance yourself from the absolute carnage of the discussion that was going on.
Sure, yeah. I didn't expect to see that terrifying word brought up today, but I won't be sleeping tonight.
I love you, man, but you are so wrong about Shakespeare. It is unbelievably incomprehensible.
Yeesh.
Can I go
Okay.
next?
Yes, you can, Abram.
Because I'm also going to go with Shakespeare because I'm nominating all three of you for being wrong about Shakespeare in Love.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Now,
my
I
God.
don't,
One of my backups is Abram Shakespeare in Love.
I don't like the way that I'm being put into a corner currently because earlier in the discussion you were talking about how that won because of Harvey Weinstein. So let's be clear, I am not siding with
Okay.
Harvey Weinstein.
You
We
kinda
never accused you
Just a little bit.
of such.
I'm being clear. I'm
You're
being
starting with
clear
him more
that
than the rest of us are.
I'm siding with the beautiful narrative and wistful storyline and ambiance of Shakespeare in Love, which is not only a great film, it's a better film than boring old Saving Private Ryan. 2 thumbs down for that one.
Oh,
All of you are wrong,
he's
and I want an apology.
Abram, have you even seen Saving Private Ryan?
I have seen Saving Private Ryan.
all
Oh,
right.
it's so sad when he grows old all of a sudden because he's thinking about war or whatever.
Oh, no fucking who. Who's next?
Tanner is next.
I'm next. Okay. Now I'm going a bit off the beaten path here. I know Abram already threw a curveball in this category by selecting all three of us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to. It's time for some inward reflection. I think I am selecting myself for the most wrong, and I am selecting my opinions on the film, A Beautiful Mind. Because
interesting.
this may not be memorable to many of you, but I often think back to this of how hard set I was on the film being flawed because it did not stick true to the story of John Nash, right? Something
Yeah.
Nash.
Nash.
Sure.
Yeah.
Charlie Nash.
Nash. Mr.
Street
Nash.
Fighter 5.
And as I look back and as my film criticism skills improve. I just think back to that and like that's not like good reviewing or good criticism. That it's not like true to the story. Because as my thoughts on film have progressed, I'm like, it doesn't need to be like biopics don't need to be 100% factual. It's artistic expression. So that is why I am selecting myself for A Beautiful Mind.
Wow, how humble and yes, introspective of you, Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker, what's your pick for most wrong?
Now we're gonna do a little community polling here with the four of us because I
Okay.
have two that I only chose two. I was actually kind of struggling to do this. I'm like, who am I gonna insult?
Yeah.
And one of
Tucker's
them,
very
as I
rare to
mentioned-
insult. Tucker
No, I
doesn't
never
like
do that.
insulting people, so
No.
yeah.
One of them I already mentioned, Abram on Shakespeare in Love. I mean,
Yep.
that's pretty straightforward. He's wrong about that, yada, yada, yada. It might be kind of
Uh-huh.
fun to have the two of them going opposite one another.
Right.
But the main one I picked, and I don't think... I want to hear your thoughts on this, see if I should pick it, because
Okay.
something similar already happened. Was me on From Here to Eternity.
Oh.
Just as a funny kind of bit, because that was one of the
Okay.
most iconic 1v3 episodes.
Do you actually think you're wrong about that movie?
No, I don't, but I just thought it'd be funny.
You can't pick it.
So I guess I have to go with Abram Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah, why not?
That's funny.
Mine, I haven't really changed my opinions on From Here to Eternity, and I just said it'd be funny if I said that.
Mhm.
But Abram Shakespeare in Love, I mean, it's not that good a movie, so what the fuck are you
Didn't
doing?
remember liking that movie at all.
No, we saw Tanner and I saw it twice.
We
Didn't
did.
get better.
My backup, I also chose myself for something because I think that probably the most objectively wrong. I actually chose myself for two different things. I
Okay.
think I've made two objectively wrong takes, but I didn't include either because they're both the nominee episodes opposed to win episodes.
Sure.
I think that the most objectively wrong thing I've ever said is that the remake of West Side Story is lit poorly because that's just simply not any way commensurate to reality.
Yeah.
The other one I picked, and I
that's
didn't,
pretty cab.
and I didn't know if anybody else was gonna have picked this. I think I was pretty objectively wrong about Tar.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yes.
there's one
Well,
moment in which you were
you were
straight up.
just misinformed about Tar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never wrong, so I didn't have any backups
Yeah.
or self-reflexive moments. Totally,
true.
Three of us
totally,
use this. Well,
totally
two of
never
us use
wrong.
this as an opportunity to look inward. One of us used it as an opportunity to not look inward, and one of us used an opportunity to say he was looking inward, but then lie about it. That's me.
Okay, well,
we got our nominees.
we shall see what we choose for most wrong when we do our
Yes.
voting. Up next is a big category, a category that
Yeah.
often defines the movie. It's the face of the film, best actor in a best picture. Abram, what do you think? Who do you think deserves to be nominated for you?
I'm here to right a famous wrong of the Academy
Oh, okay.
with a
Hang
young
on.
man whose film was nominated for everything else and won most of it, but he himself had to wait until
A
some
young man.
stupid fucking
Okay.
movie about a bear came out
Okay,
to get
yeah,
his
okay.
gold. I'm talking about Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. For me, I think he hits every note I want an actor to hit in a film. I think he is universally endearing. I think there's an iconic charm about his line delivery and the way he carries himself. I think that this sort of mischievous way we learn more about his character as the film unfolds, and we see him blush in the French girls scene, or we see him become so confident and all-knowing as he's trying to save Rose's life. To me, DiCaprio in Titanic is the archetypal movie star, but not in the way that we get a movie star like The Rock, who maybe can't act too well, because I think that in addition to having this incredible ethos in Titanic, I do think that DiCaprio sells the emotional beats, the comedic beats,
Yep.
and the more physical beats of that performance extremely well, and I think it's crazy he wasn't even nominated.
True.
Dang, Tucker, what do you think?
Can I go last? I'm looking a little something here.
Uh-oh, he's shuffling.
Okay,
All right,
I'll go
he's
next.
shuffling about.
I have my pick. I am gonna stick in the old time. I'm gonna pick one of the actors of all time. I just think that he deserves a lot of recognition, although pretty much already got it. None other than Humphrey Bogart for his performance in Casablanca, but also
course.
for many other performances. There is no like leading man in a romance action film that like comes to mind more than Bogart does because of his on-screen charisma, the aura that emanates from him when he's there, and these classic line deliveries that, despite I think acting styles changed a lot since Bogart's time. You know, we got Brando, and then we got the mumbling continues on from Brando, but Bogart himself has this timeless quality to his performances that just scream Hollywood, they scream movies, and they scream everything that I like about watching films. And I find that he's extraordinarily convincing and extraordinarily good as Rick in Casablanca. He totally fills the role, even though I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, that's Humphrey Bogart. Like, yeah, he doesn't dissolve into the role, but he always fills the shoes so well. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great pick.
Tanner, you're next, so we give Tucker more time to think.
Oh,
Okay.
I finished, but
Okay.
You get more time anyway.
Okay, good.
With my
I'll think about
last
it.
2 acting picks, I have famously righted wrongs, righted mistakes that the Academy has made, much like Abram just did with his
course.
Best Actor choice. So I will again be doing so in my Best Actor pick. Perhaps one of the biggest acting snubs of all time. Not even a snub, I would ask. Just a bait and switch. A switch that makes no sense. And we called it out in the episode. And that is, my nomination is Sidney Poitier in
Yep.
the Heat
Yes.
of the
My
Night.
backup.
That's such a good
one of the
choice.
ones I was
That's a
thinking
great
of.
choice.
Yep.
Okay, because as we discussed in the episode, Rod Steiger, his co-star who plays the racist small town cop in that film, was nominated and won for that film, and not even a nomination for Mr. Poitier. I am writing that. He is fantastic in the
Who
film.
is so
It's a-
clearly the lead actor, it's not
Yes.
even funny.
Exactly, and this is what I'm talking about. I mean, I didn't want to telegraph it too early because my last pick for best scene was when he slaps Endicott.
Oh, of
What,
course.
what a
Oh.
moment! What a moment in that film, and it hinges all on Sidney Poitier's resolve. That's maybe the word I would use for him in the entire film is his resolve. He is there.
We'll
He is
listen to that episode
deftly
again.
navigating the complex racial politics of this southern town while also trying to like solve this murder. And it's there in all of it. He has that like I just keep think back to that moment when he's cornered in that abandoned warehouse by those guys who are going to attack and presumably kill him, and he has that crazed look in his eye, like a cornered animal, and it's incredible. He sells all of it. Every single moment, every single note of that film is Sidney Poitier. Not even a nomination. I refute you, Academy. I refute you. And your
What year
choices.
did In the Heat of the Night come out again? Because he did win.
68? I want to say.
So he actually won earlier. Poitier won
Exactly.
in 63. So they knew he existed.
Yeah,
What are you gonna
bizarre.
do? What are you gonna do, Academy? All right, Tucker, what's your nom?
I gotta go with the underdog. The classic underdog. The iconic underdog. One Mr. Rocky Balboa, of course. Sylvester Stallone as
great choice.
Rocky Balboa
Uh-huh.
gives one of the most characteristic performances of all time.
Mhm.
He is so full of mannerisms and stumbles and personality traits and quirks coming out of every witch hole. It is shocking that a guy that had never done professional acting
Mhm.
before, especially not in a feature-length film, could do that to the degree where he would become one of the most iconic actors of all time and one of the most iconic characters of all time, and bring himself and the team around him up to the top level of film criticism and winning tons of Oscars just with heart. I mean, that's what Rocky is. Rocky is about heart, and Sylvester Stallone is the key to all of that. Also, of course, I've seen all the Rocky movies. I know where his character goes, but it really is that first movie that establishes him as a powerful actor in a powerful role. And goddamn, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky
Probably
Balboa.
the character with the most amount of like screen time on the whole from a best picture winner, I would say.
Maybe.
Because he's in the whole movie.
Also, Tucker, are you telling? Oh, and I'm talking about like the franchise and then the Creed films as well. Now, Tucker, are you telling me that you don't consider Stallone's work in softcore pornography serious acting?
Well, okay, let me rephrase.
Okay.
Work that I've seen.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay.
Work that I'm willing to admit that I've seen.
Sure. Okay.
Our audience will now be taking a break from the video to Google for a while, and then they'll come back.
Let me save you Google. It's called The Italian Stallion. Is the adult film that he starred in? So just go ahead and give that a Google.
I still have to Google.
Yeah.
Any other shout outs y'all want to give for Best Actor?
I had
Keaton
one that
and
I-
Birdman.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But there also another one that I had as my number one, and then I'm like, this is an ensemble movie. But Song Kang-ho in Parasite is just...
Yeah. He's
I
great.
mean, every face he makes,
Mhm.
you're like, this guy knows something, and he's about to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And he communicates that all through just...
I had F. Murray Abraham in Amadeus.
Oh, very
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, it's a
pick.
great pick.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think about Viggo Mortensen in Lord of the Rings:
Of
Return of
course,
the
we
King.
all love Aragorn. We all love him.
My other one was Jack Lemmon in The Apartment.
Yep,
That's another
yep.
guy full of quirks.
Guy-
That's a guy full of character traits.
Jack-
Just a put upon gentleman, perhaps the most put upon gentleman in cinematic history.
Quirked up white boys in the Billy
the-
Wilder film.
Uh-huh.
The last one I was going to shout out is Charles King as Eddie Kearns in the Broadway Melody.
Sure, yeah, you're a
You
big
weren't
fan of
gonna
him.
say that. No. Can I do the underdog best actor? Rex Arrington, My Fair Lady.
Yeah, sure. He's
Sure,
good.
that's
Henry
good.
Higgins.
Henry Higgins.
Higgins. Well, speaking about My Fair Lady and Broadway Melody, we're now gonna go to the opposite side of the acting coin. No,
My Fair Lady, easy. Shots across the bow there, Timo.
we're talking about worst performance by any performer in all these Best Picture winners. I think Abram, you're gonna be the one to start us off here with this nominee.
So I'm going to be honest with you. This is a really hard category for me to pick because I don't know if a performance especially stuck out to me.
Sure.
It's often hard to remember bad performances because they are
True.
forgettable
Right.
by nature.
Unless
So
it's Jared
that's-
Leto.
That's why mine is a little bit of maybe of a cop out answer, but I think we can pin it on the ringleader of this group of individuals if you'd like. But I have
Okay.
simply written down on my ballot here the kids from Oliver.
Oh, the kids.
The
Okay.
kids.
Sure. Yeah, they weren't too good.
I was really thinking about children, and I was also thinking about the really fucking annoying little sibling from
Mrs. Miniver.
from Mrs. Miniver. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I really had kids on the mind
Was his
because
name Toddy? Something like that.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. So if you'll accept
annoying.
if you accept this sort of idea, the notion of sort of a conglomerate of children as an answer, I'm going to go with the kids from Oliver. If you want a specific kid,
Yeah.
I'm taking the kid from Mrs. Miniver.
I think the Mrs. Miniver one is funnier, to be honest.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
take
okay.
that then.
Sure.
Because we also singled that guy out like 3 times. That poor
Yeah.
kid. We singled him out a lot
Yeah.
in that movie.
Yeah.
It frankly doesn't happen for many of these performances because I think you're right. Most of the performances across the board in this series have been great. But
Yeah.
there is one that sticks out to me. I'm hijacking it. I'm giving my
You
nominee.
could just go right ahead, Tucker. You got that segue mind.
Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur. I mean,
Oh.
look, he's fine, but not where it counts, to be 100% honest. He's good in the physical scenes, but as a character, he doesn't bring the juice, and he gets so outshone by his co-star that it's
Yep.
not even funny. And that's another example of during the review, we're like, why was he? I mean, because he was famous. Like,
Mhm.
why was he chosen for this role? He clearly didn't fit it. He doesn't bring the charisma sort of necessary to anchor an entire long ass movie around him. And I like Charlton Heston in general, but I think he just doesn't. He doesn't bring it in Ben-Hur.
I really like it when he goes on the NRA convention stage and spews endless. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, very good.
That is sarcasm. I'm gonna go next, Tanner, so that you can get the glorious last spot. My
Sure.
picture or my pick for worst performance is gonna have to be from Here to Eternity. It's from that movie. There's
of
a
course.
couple of bad performances in that movie, but there is one that stands out way beyond the rest, and it's unfortunate because our boy Frank Sinatra is
Yeah,
in From
yeah.
Here to Eternity, and oh my God, he is so bad. He is so wooden. He doesn't sing. So major marks against him. No singing. Wooden.
Yeah.
Bad character. Like, it goes on. Oh, that character. It's so. I barely remember like a lot about who he is or what he does in that film.
Mhm.
I just remember never believing any of the line deliveries and always being like, "That's Frank Sinatra," and just ugh, that's a bad performance, and it shouldn't
Yep.
be because it's coming from someone. Sinatra should be able to give us a good performance. He fails completely in that
Yep.
film. Tanner,
I'm
what do you
gonna
follow
dip
it
in.
up with?
I'm gonna dip into the bucket of hate that is Crash, and I'm gonna fish around, and I'm gonna pull out, I don't know, the ringleader, as Abram was talking about. I'm gonna pull out Matt Dillon as the worst performance in a Best Picture winner. Because he is, as much as that movie can have a main character, he is the main character. If you recall, it's a lot of it hinging on, is my racist dad gonna be okay? Oh, woe is me, it's hard to be a cop in Los Angeles. He has to, he's very weepy. He has to hold Tandy Newton in his arms as she like dies from a car accident or whatever. There's a lot of that. Just a lot of stuff that Matt Dillon has to do in that movie by nature of the script that neither his acting ability nor the script can sell for his character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't.
It's a good pick. Sandra Bullock from that would also have been a good pick.
Yeah.
Good God. You remember her falling down the stairs? That was so
The
stupid.
stairs!
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
god!
Who
No,
forgot that
is
one
that
for
her?
best
Is that
scene?
the
man? Where
editing,
isn't that
you
in
know?
the best scene.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Oh my
God damn it.
god. All right, let's get some cheer going on here. We're gonna stay in the acting category, but go back to praise and goodness. Best actress in a Best Picture winner. Tucker, I think you got opinions about this one, so start us off. Who do you nominate?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I specifically do, but I have a lot of actress performances in these movies that I really, really do adore. And this, I think, is one of the tough ones for me because I've got such a great upper crust, but I gotta land on one of my favorite acting performances of all time, which is Hilary Swank in Million Dollar Baby as Mukushla. I think that what Million Dollar Baby does and why I have it near the top of my list is portray all the spectrum of human emotions, from the highest highs that someone can experience of leaving their dirty life behind and succeeding in something amazing and finally realizing their dream, and then having to be as injured as a human person can possibly be without being dead, and only being able to move eyes and maybe lips a tiny bit. Hilary Swank just kills it in every possible emotion there, and she just delivers one of my favorite performances of all time. I just don't know what to say here.
Don't have to say much else. Abram,
Good.
who do you nominate?
Whew, because I think I have two obvious ones, and I was concerned that if I went too far down the list, I wouldn't get to them. But now I get to praise Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water.
Excellent.
It's one on my list, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Sally Hawkins is able to portray this really interesting sense of confident and underestimated fragility so well. I think the ways that, in a very subtle performance, she is able to prove wrong everybody else in that cast around her and sort of find a love and a confidence in all these different senses of fulfillment throughout the film are very beautifully captured in her physical performance, and obviously it is quite a physical performance given that she is mute during the film. So it's always stuck with me. I think that it's tender when it needs to be, and it is very confident and assertive at the points in the narrative where it calls for it, and I think that Sally Hawkins navigates these poles very, very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely.
Tanner, you're next.
Now, since Abram took Sally Hawkins, who is in contention for my top spot, I get to go with another equally fantastic performance in my mind, perhaps even more so, as if I can jog our memories a little bit, on Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, we talk about how Jack Lemmon in that film is maybe the most put upon man in cinematic history, but Shirley MacLaine has that in equal measure, I think. They are both like these jaded individuals who, they're not star-crossed lovers in any sense of the imagination. They are like people who have gone through a lot, and you especially feel that in MacLaine's performance. I mean, she has that harrowing suicide attempt, which is a really, I'm going to use the word again, harrowing moment for a Billy Wilder film, who is sort of like the king of these like screwball comedies. But he anchors this film around Shirley MacLaine and making her, this character who has been who's been around a block a time or two and knows that the world is not an imperfect place. She's been burned before, she's been betrayed before, and she's not ready. She's not sure if she's ready to do that again. And so the whole arc of the film of redeeming both of our characters rides on her performance and her acceptance of Jack Lemmon characters, like the extension of positivity, of posterity. So absolutely got to go with Shirley MacLaine. I say that she's very serious and harrowing and all that, but also there's the screwball comedy stuff that she does
It's a funny
fantastically
movie
as well. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, Tanner, you stole my pick, so I'm gonna go with my backup here, which is gonna have to be Jodie Foster in The Silence of the Lambs. We shouted this movie out earlier, gave it a couple noms. She is incredible as our lead detective, and I just think back to these moments of intense fear in my own self that I'm watching on where the movie is causing me to be so fearful, like in that scene that we brought up earlier, the raid on the house, which was an editing nomination, but I think that the performance in the scene also really nails it home. We see fear in her eyes, yet we see this confidence. We have this long character struggle of, is she able to take this case? And the moments in which she confronts Hannibal Lecter are just unnerving beyond belief, and we get to see that she has got the chills down her spine as a character, but is maintaining cool, and just the balance in this performance that's like hiding emotions and showing them in scenes all throughout the film. Jodie Foster, really great.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of my picks.
Any other shout outs here?
Oh, what else do I
Gotta say Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh.
Sure. Yeah.
Everything Everywhere. Everything I mentioned about Kei Kwan being great and about what this movie does amazingly. I mean, she's the core of all of it. I mean, maybe Kei Kwan's the emotional core, but in terms of character growth and dealing with the nonsense, it's Michelle Yeoh all the way. So she was certainly my secondary pick there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Moving on. We are in the final stretches now, so we're in the big categories. This is possibly the biggest. Not really. For the Quest viewers who are interested in the bestest, you should tune out because we are now taking a trip to the bottom with worst picture. Tanner, who would you like to nominate for the very worst picture out of all the best pictures that we watched? There's a lot of them. One of them's got to be the worst.
It's not going to be entirely surprising, but I have to be the one to do it. I'm going to go ahead and pick Crash again. I'm done fishing around in the bucket of Crash.
Yeah.
I'm just grabbing the bucket itself, okay? I'm holding it up. It's full of holes. It's rusty. It smells really weird. But I'm like, this bucket fucking sucks, dude. This shit sucks ass. And, we talked about it in our least deserving category as well.
Yeah.
And it is, of course, the least deserving. But I don't know if there's ever been a Quest episode that we've been just more negative in. Just just nothing positive to say, just dog piling on this movie, as people have been doing for the last decade and a half. Nearly 2 decades, actually.
More than 2 decades.
It was 2004, so coming up on 2 decades. Yeah.
Okay, almost.
Yeah.
We're almost at the 20th anniversary. Woo woo.
I don't need to say much more about how Crash sucks because we all know it sucks.
We do. Tucker, what else sucks?
I gotta go Hamlet. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. No movie has pissed me off more than Hamlet. I sincerely and wholeheartedly believe that it's the least interesting and just by far worst best picture in we watched. I mean, maybe I'm doing a recreation of what made that episode so special. But I hate Hamlet. It's like one of my bottom 3 movies I've ever seen in my life, and none of the other ones are on that list. So yeah, no, I gotta go with that.
Okay.
It wouldn't be honest if I chose something else.
That's true.
I have to be true to myself.
We value honesty here on the Quest for the Bestest. Abram, what do you pick for worst picture of the best pictures?
So, mine is maybe not the absolute worst on a quality level, but I knew that Crash was going to get taken.
Yeah.
So I looked at the list and I thought to myself, I thought to myself, which of these movies just means absolutely nothing to me? Which of these titles do I look at and think, I have no concept what that movie was even about? It was so ineffectual in its ability to create a connection to me that it is just a title and a list. And for me, the film I picked is A Man for All Seasons.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
great pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Now,
great pick.
I can sort of see images of this movie in my head. I feel like I can get the rough outline of medieval political intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like when I look for the face of this actor in my mind, I'm seeing somebody from Braveheart or I'm seeing somebody from Amadeus, and I just can't pinpoint what this movie was about, what it was trying to accomplish. There was something about like a vacation home and like countryside, and a guy with and his feet and his boots are getting muddy. He was like
Yes.
a royal
Yeah.
dignitary.
Because it's him going. It's him and Henry VIII, and he's like
Okay,
Henry
let's
VIII.
not
Oh,
teach
sorry.
him what it's the movie's about.
So
Defeats the purpose of his whole bit.
for its complete inability to mean anything to me, I'm going with this. If I had to pick the film that does the least to elevate its source material, I would have picked Spotlight, but that's a different category entirely.
What source material? Real life?
Should have read a newspaper. I think I read a newspaper.
Okay. Enough dogging on Tanner's favorite movie here. I am. I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna have to do it. Tom Jones. Tom
Sure.
Jones.
Oh,
That was my other
interesting, yeah.
one.
Tom Jones sucks. It's at the bottom of our list. It's 89th right now. Or that's where it is. There's no now. It's forever and ever at 89th. There's weird parts to that film. I don't remember a lot of it. I remember being very off-put by it. The comedy, not funny. The weird eating stuff is the weird stuff I was talking about. That's the only thing I remember out of the movie, and I don't have positive thoughts about it. Tom Jones, not good. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it, but we maybe throw Around the World in 80 Days on that list, but I think we've dogged on that one enough, and Tom Jones has received little hate,
That's
and
true.
it deserves hate.
There's more, yeah.
So
Little to no dogging on Tom Jones in this nomination ceremony.
despite a lot of
Yeah.
dogging, if you know what I mean, going on in Tom Jones.
Hello.
Eating fruit.
Yes.
It's just a weird movie, man. I just don't get that one. I don't know
Bizarre.
why. It's
I gotta
bizarre.
throw out Cavalcade. I mentioned
Oh,
it.
yep,
I think that was
yep.
my nominee for most boring. But I also think boring is bad.
Potato,
I think that's one of the
yeah.
most
Yeah.
one of the biggest cardinal sins a movie can have. And so that was my second. That's actually maybe the more true answer for this for me, but it's not the most honest. So obviously
Sure. And we're all about honesty,
Sure.
guys, as we said.
We are all about
Yeah.
honesty. And I gotta be honest with you guys. We only have 3 categories left.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the third to last one is gonna have to be Best Director. Out of all the directors who directed a Best Picture winner, or maybe a couple, which one do you think is the very best? I want to hear from Tucker first here. Tucker, who do you pick for this? This is a big category and tough to choose. Honestly, this is like a hard one.
I think I
Yeah.
know. I think I know.
It's a very interesting category because it was actually probably the easiest one for me to choose. I don't even have backups here. I gotta go with my boys, my Daniels. These motherfuckers. These motherfuckers. They made one of my favorite movies of all time. 5, 6 years, 7 years ago, and I watched it. And I'm like, I can't believe that people are doing this, and that it's being released theatrically with big name talent in it. And then a couple years later, they won Best Picture, and I gotta give it to them because if you remember, all Oscar season, I was not confident in Everything Everywhere, because I knew because it meant so much to me that I didn't feel right saying this is the best because I was trying to divorce myself from bias, I guess. And did I need to? No, because they won everywhere, and then they won at the Oscars, and I think what I said, I think maybe in one of our Everything Everywhere reviews is directorial vision to me is getting a sense of artistry that you don't see elsewhere. And because the Daniels are so forward thinking and so different from everyone else who's directing Oscar caliber movies, they are the best directors in my opinion. I think distinctness is what I weigh in an authorial directorial vision, and there's very few things more distinct than what my boys Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert did. So I got to go with them.
Of course.
Throwing some new blood into the mix. There we go.
Some young blood.
Like Wolfenstein.
Tanner, who do you nominate for Best Director?
Well, similarly, I'm going towards someone who directed a unique film in the Oscars Best Picture oeuvre. I'm going Alejandro González Iñárritu in his film Birdman. If we're talking about just directorial eye, directorial intent, directorial vision, it doesn't get much more like this is a directed movie. This is Iñárritu's vision for what this film is and translating it one-to-one to screen than our simulated one take that is analyzing the intricacies of art, of acting, of criticism of art, of even like more broadly self-doubt in oneself as you age. And even like the breakdown of this actor's mind, of Michael Keaton's mind as he goes through the most strenuous couple days of his life. And it is all translated through something that is so surreal yet so grounded that I have to give it to Iñárritu's vision in Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Excellent, excellent. Abram, you can go next, or you can choose to defer to me. Either or, up to you.
I'm gonna defer because if you're gonna, I don't want to take it from you. You go next.
Okay. Well, this might be kind of obvious coming from me, but my nominee for Best Director is gonna have to be David Lean. David Lean made 2 Best Picture winning films, Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, and I think that as a pair, these 2 films really demonstrate what Lean was so good at in his later career is the wrangling of these massive stories, these epic films that are epic beyond what most other films could even dream of. Like films that get close to epicness of Lawrence and Bridge on the River Kwai is like Ben-Hur. But David Lean manages to keep us invested in these large, sweeping stories by driving us home with character narrative and character drama that keeps us right there in the small-scale details of a story, while then allowing us to live and swim and drink in the large-scale details. The ways that he can do a wide shot, and then he can get his cinematographer to compose these massive frames, but then go in really close and underscore and to highlight what these character conflicts are going on. There's many, many moments from both of those films that I think show Lean's authorial vision in a less like flashy way as some of the modern filmmakers that both you two nominated, but in a very precise way. He knows what his story is and he knows the things to show to tell it. And I love how imbued with meaning and how dense David Lean movies are. There's just like Lawrence of Arabia just has shot after shot that is like, there's a lot of symbolism going on here. It's like, I've watched this film a lot of times and I'm still not picking it all apart. Still more to be found. So David Lean has got to be my pick for Best Director.
And for the record, in Lawrence of Arabia, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna have him for Lawrence. I'm thinking.
Yeah, do it. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Bridge is a great movie. Lawrence is better.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to say Peter Jackson, but you didn't, so I will.
There you go.
I think that what's remarkable to me about Peter Jackson, much like what Tucker's saying with the Daniels, is that the sort of meta-narrative around the win of Return of the King is really interesting to me. The ways in which Peter Jackson was not able to take this source material that was one of the unadaptable stories. There have been plenty, so that term is largely meaningless, but to take Lord of the Rings and translate that to the screen, but then to be denied your win for film after film, but nonetheless maintain, and in my opinion, raise the bar on that franchise to where your win for Return of the King is a win for the sum of the parts of that franchise, and also for the continued refinement of the craft across those, I think is really remarkable. And it's a sort of persistence in skill and even-handedness and direction that I'm hoping Denis Villeneuve is able to sort of carry forth into Dune when Dune wins Best Picture one day. On top of just the ability to make a narrative like Lord of the Rings, which is inherently fantastical and inherently distanced, feel so personal. As with your saying in the case of Lean, I think that Return of the King in particular is so great at bringing us to these very intimate moments of character in the context of battles that are so much larger and by merit of them being computer generated so much less impactful as a inherent result of the distance that the artificiality of those create. So I just think that Peter Jackson's a really, really exceptional filmmaker, and sticking that landing for Return of the King is, I think, one of the great hat tricks maybe in direction.
And then he never made any more Lord of the Rings movies. You know, it's crazy that he never returned.
No, and he's certainly not on board. He's not getting set up to do even more.
Yeah. Perhaps the director that's given the most physically to any of his movies, especially of our picks, because he dropped like, I don't know, tens of pounds during the production of all, because it's also a nomination for the entire trilogy because he shot it all at once.
It's true.
Yeah. Don't look up pictures of Peter Jackson while he's directing The Hobbit. He looks legitimately sick. He looks like he's actually wasting away.
He's dying.
I also wanted to shout
Sickest director.
I wanted to shout out Francis Ford Coppola for similar reasons.
Gonna do the same
I also
thing.
think that Francis Ford Coppola's filmography beyond the Oscars holds up a whole hell of a lot better, and I do think that, at least for me, that kind of factors in.
Sure.
And then Jimmy Boy, James Cameron, I also wanted to give a shout for a similar reason too.
If we're going for most director, it's got to be William Wyler because he won the most times.
He did win the most. I had to throw in the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, and Rebecca, just because he's fucking Alfred Hitchcock, and he directed a goddamn sweet ass Alfred Hitchcock movie that won Best Picture, so gotta throw him in there.
I can't believe he directed a sick ass Alfred Hitchcock movie. Yeah, that's a real skill of his.
What a twist! Who could have seen it? A Hitchcockian twist.
I was in suspense.
Bong Joon-ho is also on my list.
Of course,
another excellent one. We'll see. I would put
Ron
him
Howard,
in the
he's Ron Howard.
Ron Howard. If Bong Joon-ho doesn't win another Best Picture winner, something will be wrong with the universe, I think. I think he's in it. I think he's in it for another one. Okay.
Mickey 17.
Now, here is a special category, because this one we have already sort of figured out. We already spent 90-some episodes, 95 episodes, ranking all these movies to find out the very best Picture winner. This is Best Picture. Now, if you've been following the series, you'll know that we numerically ranked Schindler's List as the #1 film. It went up there. I forget exactly which episode. Well, I'll find out for you right now.
Sure.
But that film shot to the top, and it stayed there ever since. It's got like a 9.8. Can't really beat that on the score. But we've picked other films that we think are the Best Picture winners also, and we'll nominate them right now. Abram, since you went last, why don't you go first on this time? Who do you nominate for Best Picture, or which film rather?
Now this is if I maybe I should have given myself most wrong for not giving this film the 10 that it deserved, but it was really a rewatch for class that put it in that position. And in my opinion, the very best Picture winner is Parasite. I think that what's most exciting about Parasite is the way that it doesn't at all compromise the impact or the philosophical meaning of its themes and social commentary. Those aren't at all sacrificed for the plot or vice versa. Parasite is so watchable and engaging as just a surface level thriller, and every time you peel away another level of that film, you're sort of accumulating more and more meaning and enjoyment out of every scene. I don't think I've really experienced many films wherein everything is so multifarious in its purpose. You can't ascribe a particular meaning to anything in Parasite because so much is being done. But unlike in the case where sometimes a film like Us, for instance, from Jordan Peele, which I really do enjoy, sometimes I think that the universality of your metaphor can dilute it. I don't think that's the case with Parasite. I think Parasite just has a lot of things it wants to say very precisely and very efficiently. And it's just so fucking tense and so creative. I think that Parasite is a perfect movie, and I do think that it is maybe, in my opinion, the best movie I have seen, period, for Quest or otherwise.
Wow. Which is a pretty big 180 from when you first watched the movie, first reviewed it. You were certainly the lowest on it out of the three of us. So obviously you said a rewatch unlocked that for you, but that's a nice character arc for you. To give it that first episode, lowest, now you're giving it your nomination.
Yeah.
There you go. Tucker, why don't you go next? What film do you nominate for Best Picture?
What could it possibly be?
What could it possibly be? I mean, I happen to be quite lucky. And I guess Timo's also quite lucky, and maybe Abram's also quite lucky that my favorite movie of all time won Best Picture. And that's
Mine
Everything
almost
Everywhere All at Once. Which I think because of me, and maybe a little help from a couple other people around these parts, might be the most nominated movie here. And as it was at the Oscars last year, and as it was with wins of almost all time, it feels so rare in the modern age to have a movie that comes and sweeps everything. It used to happen, and get nominated. Movies get nominated in all sorts of categories, and then they win everything. It's like, oh yeah, default. Yeah, of course that was best. Doesn't really happen that way anymore. We get a lot of close 1-2, a couple of top 3 at the top, whatever. Everything Ever All at Once was so far and away, nominee wise and win wise, the best picture of last year that there wasn't even a question. But even on a very subjective level, it does everything that I think films can do, and for me, feels like what people must have felt like watching movies like Ben-Hur when they came out. Like I can't believe they did this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that movies have reached this point. It feels so fresh. I always was grasping for those things for myself, very, very subjectively, to want to recapture the energy that you hear people being so flamboyantly excited about when they were able to see them. Mm-hmm. And older movies, I have a harder time doing that with. But Everything Ever All at Once, as a movie that I saw as soon as it came out and have since watched more times in 1 year than any other movie that I've seen in 1 year. It's my favorite movie, and I think it's the best picture winner, or the best of them.
You think it is? I think it's the best picture winner too, Tucker.
I'm hazarding a guess there.
98% sure it's the best picture winner.
Pretty sure.
Chance.
Yeah.
Well, Tanner, you can go next because I don't think you're gonna steal mine. That's the calculus I'd be making when I'm choosing to hand. No. Tanner, what do you nominate?
Now, Timo, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disprove you in your opening statement in this award, where you said that we all picked different movies than what we agreed upon in the Best Picture ranking list, because I'm going to go with Schindler's List by Steven Spielberg, because
how can you
there
not?
are plenty of movies on this list, plenty of Best Picture winners, that I can be hopping out of my seat during moments. I can be hooting and hollering during plenty of these. But there's only one movie that can make me feel the opposite side, the coin flip of that, and that is just a stunned, shocked silence for 3 hours. By design, I might add, and Steven Spielberg was maybe one of my picks for Best Director as well, because he crafts such a shattering piece of cinema, I think, in Schindler's List. I mean, just mastery over every aspect of it. He deftly maneuvers from having like a documentarian's hand in his film and also having an auteurist hand at the same time. He is the great American filmmaker, and he's diving into perhaps the most emotionally wrought period in human history, the Holocaust, and giving us a centerpiece of Oskar Schindler, perhaps one of the most complicated characters we've ever had in a Best Picture winner. This man who had a crisis of faith and who is confronted with the horrors of what his country is doing to Jewish people. And we sit in that. We sit in that era of history for 3 hours. We get to know these characters. We get to see just the boiling evil inside of characters like Ralph Fiennes. He gets into how the Nazis are just the root of evil in this whole scenario, and does it all in such a enrapturing way. And that is why I think that Schindler's List is, as we agreed upon, the Best Picture winner.
Okay. Well, we get one for the official Quest Best Picture winner. Although, we'll see. If it wins big. Okay. I'm going to nominate...
It is still the big winner.
It is still the big winner. It is still the big winner. But
whatever wins this is like even if second.
Maybe I'm cursing myself when I say this, but even if I lose, I win.
Yes, you did. You already won.
You did?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually.
By picking the winner, you won.
Yeah.
You've seen this train coming for maybe 1,000 miles. None other. Poster's right here. Lawrence. He's right there. Look at him. Lawrence of Arabia. I've got to nominate it because, yes, it is my favorite film. But yes, I also do just genuinely believe that it is purely excellent. It's a film that I think, Tucker, you're like, wow, they really made this. You were saying that earlier. Wow, they really made this movie. I went and saw it recently, so it's very fresh in my mind. But there are so many parts of this film that are not only like mind blowing, but also deeply emotionally affecting and have thematic elements in this story that just go deeper and deeper and unravel and unravel. There are themes about imperialism and colonialism and war and sexuality. There
We
are
like all those things on Quest.
we do. We like
Yes.
themes
Yeah.
and imperialism.
Well,
Hey,
Lawrence of Arabia seems to me as a film that could only really have been made in the exact couple of years in which it was made. A couple of years earlier, and you wouldn't have been able to get some of these big effects that show up in the film, and that the scale of it and the prowess of its filmmakers wouldn't have been there. And that a couple of years later, you would have been trying to cut corners on some of these large battle scenes, these large encampment scenes that are all done practically. The film has very few special effects. I think that the film stands as a testament to how you make a movie that's long and also maintains interest throughout with lots and lots of different plot points. It's got the best placed intermission, I think, ever. It comes in the exact right spot after 2.5 hours of movie. Lawrence of Arabia stands to me on top. I tried to give it a 12 in the episode that we recorded. Obviously, that's illegal.
true?
Like
not
I
even
can't-
an 11, a 12.
a 12.
ugh.
I could only give it a 10, actually. But
Mhm.
the film is not without its flaws. I will say, unlike Everything Everywhere All at Once, which Tucker claims is a perfect movie, Lawrence, not a perfect movie, but I think always inspires me to move forward in my filmmaking craft. And every time I view it, it gives me something new to think about, not just in this story, this Lawrence, the rise and fall of one human deeply invested in a conflict, but also what I can do in my movies. It's like a textbook in some kind of ways of how to make an excellent film or how to tell an interesting story.
Yeah. And there we go. That's it. That's all of the categories that we had.
Psych! We got one more.
What?
We got one more. We got
Whoa,
one special
one more
category.
thing.
Because while we ourselves may be commenting on media and commenting on films and giving criticism, we ourselves are making media. And so this category is for ourselves. Which Quest episode was the very best? The best Quest episode,
The best for the Questist.
the best for the Questist. Who wants to do this one? Because I think it should be democratic on this. If you wait too long, I'm gonna pick.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Because mine is not a Best Picture winner, but I don't care.
Doesn't have to be.
The Top Gun Maverick episode.
Oh, shit,
is
Tucker,
the
God damn it.
only one in which multiple of us were standing because we were so
Damn it.
passionate about talking about that movie and giving it the flowers that most of us thought it deserved. And we also covered all the gamut of Quest there. We got some themes in. We started talking about politics at the beginning.
Nazi
And then-
propaganda.
Yeah,
Propaganda?
Timo started off comparing it to Nazi propaganda, which
Exactly.
is just, maybe the most emblematic of just what a strange train ride Quest can be.
But then by the end, we were like 50 minutes of us just.
That's the best part, is that we were comparing it to Nazi propaganda, and then you fast forward 45 minutes, and we're like, oh, the fucking planes and the explosions, oh my god, it's so fucking cool.
That's my nom.
What a
Yeah.
banger episode. What
Yeah.
a banger episode.
I guess I'll go next because I only had one fallback because Top Gun Maverick was my first choice as well. But I already gave my spiel on Spielberg's Schindler's List. And I think it's also important to shout it out as one of the best Quest episodes because as I just said, we were hooting and hollering during the Top Gun Maverick review, but Spielberg's Schindler's List was one of the few films that actually got us to
Shut up
tone
once.
it down for the entire episode, fittingly, I might add. But it still is a fantastic review, honestly. I mean, we go into that film and all of its themes and all of its emotionally wrought nature, all the performances, all of the filmmaking. So yeah, I have to acknowledge it as one of the most unique episodes of Quest, and I think one of the better ones. One of the perhaps the best.
Perhaps the best.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That one's not set in stone.
Yeah.
I am going to pick an episode in which we did not talk about one movie at all. This is an important episode for the best quest episode, and it's got to be the Great Re-Rank, in which we realized that our scoring system was flawed and that we were putting together a list that would not be able to accurately represent what we thought about films. Thank you to John Tor Levin for giving us the inspiration. We sat down and we devised a new system of ranking, and then we went through and we re-ranked all the movies. And while I think that the discussion and we do the film criticism much more and a lot better in other episodes, like the ones you've named, I think it's actually absolutely some of the best. But this one stands as important because it set up the framework, the infrastructure to be able to do the show in its proper form. So I got to say, the Great Re-Rank, just out of its importance. It's so important to the show.
Yeah. True.
So I was probably going to pick the La La Land episode for a number of reasons, not only because La La Land is my favorite movie of all time, so I was very happy
Well,
to
make
talk
up your
about
mind.
it on
Is it
Quest.
Parasite or is it La La Land?
Parasite's the best movie I've ever seen. La La Land's my favorite,
I get you.
think.
Okay, I get you. Okay.
And I think that one's also cool because as the last proper episode of the show, and we've been talking about some of the, for a number of reasons, we've been talking about the very earliest episodes of Quest. And I think that listening back to the La La Land episode, it's amazing how much we have all grown in our ability to articulate film and reflect on film.
Yeah.
But to me, that is what Quest is about. But I think the heart of Quest and the episode I'm going to choose is also... It's episode in the vaguest of senses, but I am choosing the Carbungled episode.
Yes! I was hoping someone would do it.
So the reason I'm choosing this is because, to me...
This is when we tried to do an episode on, terms of endearment, I think?
Yes. And the whole thing fucked up for so many reasons. I couldn't get the characters' names right, your Wi-Fi stopped working, everything went wrong. We've seen a lot of films for Quest for the Bestest, and the overwhelming majority, frankly, just don't really cross my mind anymore.
Middling.
Yeah, but the thing about it is Quest is always so fun because Quest is an opportunity for us to come together and talk about movies and why we love them and sometimes why we don't. But Quest would not be what Quest is if it was not for the four of us and for the stupid, dumb shit that we do in all these episodes.
Yeah.
And I don't think any better sort of encapsulate the feeling and the spirit and the fun of Quest better than the Carbungled episode. So I think it would be a disservice to not shout out that, because I think it is our dynamic that makes, at least for me, this show fun, regardless if we're talking about a film that I'm barely awake for or one that I love with all of my heart. It's the spirit of the Carbungled episode that made me love doing Quest every week, or the weeks we did Quest.
Yes.
The Carbungle lives within us all.
That's true.
Absolutely.
It's also the shortest, most easily watchable episode of Quest.
Yes.
It is.
It's definitely the funniest episode.
Yeah.
Most jokes per square inch.
True.
It's also the only actually edited episode of Quest.
Yes, the only one. Hey, it's a podcast. Well,
What I like here is that we've covered every possible avenue
Yes.
of Quest. The
Great-
only
great
last
film
thing would
discussion.
be
yeah, what's the last thing?
this is the only other kind of episode that we could possibly represent. But this episode is not even out yet.
Yeah.
They're actually
Not even
there's-
done.
There is one other type of Quest episode, but I think that it inherently can't be up for this because it is the Green Book Promising Young Woman type episode.
Genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Just the off the rails ones where we, in all seriousness, and we've talked about this behind the scenes as well. We don't talk about the movies as much as we should in those episodes. So
Yeah.
we mostly talk about their place as political pieces essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, we can't help ourselves.
Nice Quest subgenre there.
I can't help myself. Well, there we have it. We have nominated a whole ton of films. We got to compile some stats together to see which films think it's Everything Everywhere All at Once got the most nominations. But I was doing that work for Lawrence. Lawrence has got a number of nominations on this under its belt. We have a lot of work yet to do. We've got to vote now on these nominees. We're going to be using
Ranked choice voting.
Moving
the superior voting system.
Yes. ranked choice.
We're not doing no first past the post here.
No. We are not setting ourselves up to have a failed political establishment in 200 years. We are going to use ranked choice voting to determine a single winner for each of these nominees. And then we are going to give our very own Questers ceremony, where we deliver some speeches and some thoughts on the whole series. I strongly recommend, advise, I demand, actually, that you stay tuned for that one, because it's going to be excellent. We've been working on it. I'm really hyped for it. The peak BLB production right there.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We'll see. Thank you guys so much for coming up with these ideas, sometimes picking movies on the fly, sometimes having a couple backups.
Sometimes forcing our hand and choosing Crash, Timo.
For original screenplay.
Yes, that's of all things.
Why did I do that? Well, there's not that many original screenplays in the Oscars, and there aren't that many that are good.
It's more than 3.
There's quite a few, actually.
Right.
Anyhow, Crash is the nominee, so, well, shit. Thanks for joining me on this episode. We got one more coming up to wrap out the quest for the Best Picture version. But as always, our minds never stop. We've got more planned for the foreseeable future. And well, until next, Abram, you had something to say?
If I just may, because we have laid these films on a personal level in the Discord, Quest is not done. Let's just be very clear about that.
No.
Quest will return. Think of us like the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Think of us like Palpatine.
Think of us
or
like
James Bond.
Something else. A secret fourth thing.
A secret fourth thing.
A mail without enough postage.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right. Well, keep it tuned here. Stay cool, keep warm, and peace.